noticing is I think there's going to be another push to like quiet down like political channels anyway.
Yeah.
Especially if X is any indicator, I've noticed the last couple of days that X is getting like a lot more strict on what they limit visibility on.
Yeah.
Like you can't even like refer to the English as pussies or anything like if you say like I said that just kind of offhandedly. I was like, gosh, yeah, they get on my nerves through that, and it's like, well, this post is a limited visibility. I'm like, are you serious?
Really?
Are you serious for that? It's like, okay. And then I
Your
think I
GIF, your
referred
GIF is
to
really matching you right now. This is great. Sorry. Yeah.
but yeah, it's or like if you like usually on X if you there's some words that get limited. Uh if you say the F slur,
Hmm.
that'll get you right away. But if you just call someone gay, it's not a big deal. And if you call someone even like a retard, that's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
But apparently, if you refer to like someone like Lindsey Graham as a gay retard, then
You
that gets
combine the
limited.
two.
Or it wasn't even him. I think it was someone else. But I was like, yeah, this guy's sounds like a big gay retard, and I'm like, well, this is limited. And I'm like, really? Are y'all clamping down on this all of a sudden? Is it
Again?
because we're
Yeah.
over in Iran? Come on, y'all. Is that
Yeah.
what we're doing
So
now?
I know that they were making a big push, which I was glad for about when it comes to things about war and all that they
Mm.
were deciding to like, hey, if you're using AI clips about war and stuff like that, then directly addressing about war and stuff like that, and I guess deaths and all that, attacks like but you're using AI, then you'll be kicked out of the creator program,
Yeah.
or you'll
I mean, I
be
wonder. Does
temporarily.
that? Yeah. Does that apply to like the obvious parody ones? Like there was that one they posted yesterday where the dude's on like the flying carpet
Hmm.
shooting at planes.
Well, see,
I was like, would it apply
that's
to
why he
that?
posted that, is because there were so many of those accounts doing that bull crap. Where
Mhm.
kind of doing that crap, like they're saying, look at this U.S. ship, it's going down, blah 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 blah. It's noted that there's 142 sailors that have already lost their lives, and yeah, so that account probably specifically, I think I know which one you're talking about. Sent it off to one of the main programmers for X, and then Elon agreed there with him that they're going to start a new rule, and they started it just the other day, that basically if you break that rule, then you get like a 90-day suspension. You break it again, then you're likely going to either get your account terminated or be forever kicked out of the program. So um and it, but I think where people, if you don't make any claims, you just post I think if you just post a video and it's obvious AI, but you can go into your little creator studio there and note things when you're posting up a Twitter video and all that, to give a lot of background information that a lot of people don't really see, because at the bottom you'll see like a video come up, and at the very bottom left of the video it'll say like from Joey Bob, and you can click on that little tiny, that's actually a link, and it'll take you to Joey Bob's profile or his original post of that video. And I'm like, well, why don't you just retweet or repost it, if instead
Yeah.
of, I don't really get that. But it's like, I'm going to attribute this, well, now they're paying you for reposting, so a lot of that doesn't really matter anymore. You can actually still give the original people tribute, get them views and get yourself views by just retweeting. So you don't have to go through all that rigmarole and all that. And so X is a terrible, terrible platform for trying to, I guess, unless you're shit posting all the time.
Yeah.
I feel like it's not the greatest platform for doing anything YouTube, like YouTube related, as far as getting money, anything out of it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
haven't had any luck.
It sucks because YouTube is it's obviously not even close to what it used to be. It's not creator friendly whatsoever.
Right? It's not YouTube.
There's nothing even like, I guess Rumble's the closest thing to a competitor, but it's I mean, it's even more of a crapshoot. I mean, it almost I'm not sure of a lot of people who have organically grown there.
No.
Other than maybe Tomby. Like Tomby's actually maybe the one person that I guess we know that
Mm-hmm.
is growing considerably. All you know, I mean, he had an okay following on YouTube, but it's like he's doing quite well on Rumble. It seems.
Yeah.
He's literally the only person I know who has
Right.
kind of built from the ground up there. I don't
Mhm.
know anyone else. Everyone else already had a presence.
Blair to
So
Blair, by the way, is in the chat.
nice.
Oh,
What
Blair,
up?
Blair to Blair, Blair. Every time I read it like vampire. Okay. Blair, Blair to Blair. All right, he's so cool. Yeah, I hear you about that. Like, just I really wish Rumble had their stuff together. I really wish it was user friendly. I wish it wasn't all about politics because, you know, as fun as all that is, and I have a unique take
That's
on
yeah.
it and funny memes. It's not happening, dude.
It's literally like it's that or I guess game streams, and that's
Mhm.
really kind of all they have right now. And it's like, that's kind of boring.
Yeah, yeah, it really.
I mean, like I think I have maybe like 120 followers on my Rumble end, which most of them came from Tomby.
Yeah.
So shout out again to him. But yeah, I mean, you post like when I repost like movie review stuff there, there's like no traffic whatsoever. That's just not why people are going there. They go
No.
to YouTube for that stuff. And what's sad is like YouTube is making it increasingly harder to make good stuff on that end. So either I mean, it's like if I mean, I look at like the audience, I'm like, hey, if you all actually want us to make what we want on that end, because no, I feel like a lot like the best movie review stuff to me is entertainment and content of its own. I mean, yes, it's informative. Obviously, you want to hear a good take and everything, but easily to me, the best ones are the ones that are entertaining. And but it's like, you know, if you look at like, you know, a lot of ER's videos, for example, like when he often has made like the stuff he really wants to make, like his Get Out stuff, they take it down because, you know, he'll like say the N-word on it or something like
Yeah.
that. And I'm like, well, number one, he should be allowed to because he's black. Even though a lot of people are like, he doesn't sound black. And I'm like, so he is black, so get over it.
Yeah.
But it's just like every time somebody actually makes the video they want to make, it's like they're penalized for it. I'm like, guys, if you all really want to see the videos that people want to make, like the actual good stuff, you're probably gonna have to start supporting somewhere else because YouTube's not really letting it happen. You have to walk on eggshells with them. It's kind of ridiculous. I've never had to re-edit anything for Rumble, so I'll
Right.
give it that.
Yeah.
But it's
I've
no
never
one
got a
watches
warning
it.
on there. Yeah, but nobody watches it, and there's no room for growth on that at all.
Mhm.
I like it that this chat right here, yeah, I have it put to live chat, and I had to actually refresh it. But for Canoli's, you know, comment to show up and all that. Let's see, something on me organically growing right now watching YouTube.
Oh my gosh!
Wow. Let's see, and then Whitey looks like a gay anime Netflix character. Well, yeah,
I think he just looks like an anime one. The gay ones, I don't think look like Whitey.
yeah, they. So sorry, I got. I think I look like I'm about like 10 seconds away from throwing a Pokemon ball. You know.
Like the gay anime characters look like Twilight characters to me.
Oh yeah, yeah,
They
yeah,
look like
yeah.
the
The
Volturi, who
absolute
look gay
twink.
anyway.
Yeah, Sparkle Twink.
Exactly.
Wait, do we still have the?
I'm gonna put some dirt.
No, no. I was about to say, do we have the? This is the skin of a killer, Ella.
Of a killer.
We do have it. Okay, okay, okay. I got you. Got to keep those things in line. So sorry, wishful thinking on my part. Oh. Quiet down, you Italian stallion. Duh.
Supposed to keep that in our private DMs, Cannoli.
I know, like that's the special group there.
Mhm.
Let's see. Yeah, so I did go ahead and take all the politics off the channel, or
Yay! No.
unlisted them because I was just like, you know, I want people to get to know me before they know that I'm racist.
You got to break them in and fool them a little bit.
I know. Like, yeah, you can't just call me a bigot right off, right off the shot there, right out the door. Dudes, what have I stumbled in this morning? Dude, we miss Sassy so bad, dude. It is so unreal.
Dude.
But I'm glad that you're doing better, not having to keep that stupid schedule and get to spend more time with the family, especially on y'all's very few days off, But boy, do we miss you. Nothing gay,
really
not
miss
gay at all. Oh man.
Yeah, we're hope you're on the mend. We know you've been a bit ill lately,
Yeah,
so we
yeah.
hope you're starting to get past that. That sucks.
The wife had to go through that. It was like it seemed like 3 weeks of the sinus crap, and then I never did totally get over that whole thing where my throat feels like I'll have half a day where my throat feels like it's dying. But I guess
This goes back to the gay thing, but
yeah,
no,
well, you go down on one cactus and that's it. You're screwed forever. No, but I thought I'd start a show. I was at work Saturday, and I was like, I have plenty of topics that I wanted to talk about, and a lot of things kind of come down to health, wealth, family, faith, very big, keywords on YouTube, but there's a group of friends, there's a place in France, there's a group of friends that we all have something to kind of bring to that, and yeah, lots of steroids.
Oh yeah.
Poor
I mean,
Sassy.
that does seem like the steroids would definitely be the way to the health part. At least the
Yeah.
shortcut way.
I know.
Oh, good. She's back to normal. Awesome. And lots of steroids. So that means she's also buff Sassy now.
I
which is great.
know. No, so she's like hardcore hungry, randomly pissy, strangling cannoli at times. No wonder he wants a gay
He
me.
likes, he likes it, so it's okay.
It's like, boy, you're getting kind of buffed there, Sassy.
It's so rare that anybody can reach my neck.
My neck. But yeah,
Actually, really would be, that would really suck for like a really tall person if they really liked being choked, and it's like no one can reach me. I have to lay down.
I think they have
So
devices
it's really
for
just the only
that.
way.
We can check in on David Carradine. Oh, sorry,
Oh,
he's
no.
not available for comment. Dun dun dun. But yeah, she got the muscle. But yeah, so there's subjects that basically, other than lame entertainment that we that has to kind of be dissected at times, there's a lot of subjects that we talk about in our chat that I thought that'd be fun to kind of bring up and talk about, and kind of get a few different people's opinions on it, brought in here at different times, when available and when we're all available to kind of stream on it without overdoing
Ruminate
it.
on the large questions,
Mm-hmm.
which can sometimes filter into kind of the things we're known for. I mean, like, actually have been watching a lot of religious debates and stuff lately, and discussions and whatnot.
Yeah.
And the people I've been watching, one person in particular, he just happens to. I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with Jay Dyer.
Heard the
I'd
name.
only kind of, yeah, I'd heard of him because I'd heard like Andrew Wilson, I think, bring him up once, and I can't remember where I first watched him, but I started to watch a little bit of his stuff, and I'm like, wow, this guy might be the best debater I've ever seen. And he
Mhm.
debates everything, and he'll literally debate freaking everything. But he also talks movies too, in a way that I think is interesting. And granted, like, his movie stuff isn't done like the way, like, say, I do stuff or Vex does stuff, where we try to add like an entertainment aspect to it.
Right.
Like, he's just kind of very straightforward, like breaking down like esoteric symbolism and stuff. Like, he's apparently written like 3 or 4 volumes of a book series called Esoteric Hollywood, where he goes into all of like the occult symbology in various films and stuff. It's really, really interesting stuff. Like I said, it's very straightforward. It's not done in a way to
More on
where
the
it's meant to be
analytical
like
side, not exactly what
right.
you'd call like super duper entertaining, but
Yeah, but the guy he's one of the most like well-read individuals I've ever seen. The guy, like he reads books on like freaking everything, and yeah, he's like really interesting breakdowns of movies like Eyes Wide Shut, and like he does stories like Alice in
oh, that's
Wonderland
cool.
and The Shining and stuff. And I was like, oh, this is really
Nah,
cool.
I
But he
think I
also,
watched his thing over The Shining. That's what I watched.
yeah, I mean, and he and he's someone who also has a lot of religious debates and stuff like that, and I'm like, okay, he's someone worth. And I started listening to him more and more, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this actually really like watching this guy's stuff, and he's definitely got my mind working because there's a lot of like question. Like I'm kind of always trying to examine my faith and the faith because like I like there's a lot of people who go out there and they convert to Christianity and they'll join a non-denominational church and that's what
Mhm.
they go around saying and everything. And I'm like, I've always sort of been like that, but for a very different reason. Was just because I was like, okay, I didn't want to commit to a denomination without thinking they were uh
100%
they were
right on
grounded.
everything.
Well, I mean, in a sense, it's like it's like I was like, okay, so how do we figure out which one is actually correct? And it's like, okay, well, and the one thing that I guess that's frustrated me about a lot of I guess popular Protestant like accounts and even some teachers is that they rarely talk about like the history of how we got from point A to point B and everything, how we got to now. And so I'm like, okay, so where can I start to look for some of that stuff, look for some of the answers and everything? And it kind of like there's a huge kind of dent in that history from like about 300 AD to about 15 or 1600 AD to about
Yeah.
Martin Luther or so. And that's always bugged me a bit. 'Cause I was like, because I hate when I see Protestants dismissing the question of church history. I think that's a mistake to do that. I was like, no, that's like the church history is important. That is really
Oh
important.
yeah, yeah.
And if you believe Christ established a church in his name, then the belief structure on which he laid that foundation should endure. And it's like when I see a lot of Protestants avoid that conversation, I'm like, okay, why are you avoiding it? Like that's really bothersome. Is it because the answers don't favor you, or just because you're ignorant? I can forgive ignorance, but I don't want to keep ignorance. It's like I want to know.
Right.
So that's been one thing I've been trying to look into more and more over the last like couple of months. And I mean, Jay Dyer, obviously he's Orthodox and everything. So I'm not like coming out and saying like, oh, I guess I'm Orthodox now or anything. But
Right.
I will say I think they have a very thorough understanding of church history that I'm like, okay, this is actually really interesting. I'm kind of listening to a lot of their takes on stuff because to me, I'm like, okay, so I think it's wise to test your belief system
Mhm.
because either A, you're going to learn something you didn't previously know, unlearn something that you were wrong about, or you're going to find out you were right and it's going to strengthen that. It's like if like when a Christian tests themselves against atheism, for example, if they come out still a Christian, it's like, okay, their faith is stronger at that point. If they can answer some questions that atheists have, then for themselves, and it's like, okay, you come out with stronger faith. That's good. So that's kind of the place I'm at right now in looking into various matters, and it's kind of fun that it has this crossover with some of my other interests. So it's like, oh, that's actually pretty neat. Part of me is like, oh, how can I incorporate that into future videos? And the other part of me is like, wow, I'm actually learning some really interesting history and learning, about things that I've had questions over for like decades now. Because
Yeah.
this has been kind of a gap in knowledge that I've always been frustrated with. So yeah, it's really neat stuff. It's really
Uh,
cool stuff. And we'll see how long it takes to come out on the other end of it and where I'm at by then. But I'm
Yeah,
at
yeah, yeah. I
very
mean,
early stages of that. But it's really interesting looking into uh looking at be at the starting point of looking at church history because it's like it's actually kind of exciting. At first I was like when I would think of it, I was like, gosh, this seems really daunting. Uh but now that I'm actually starting to learn stuff, I'm like, oh, this is actually really exciting. This is actually pretty neat stuff. So yeah, it's really cool.
Let's see. Canoli says, I completely agree, Gord. I've also been watching a lot of religious debates and discussions, especially after what happened in the most recent church we left.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was
That's
quite the
that's
situation.
it was yeah, and that's part of like that's like when you brought that up, I was like, it's interesting you bring that up and everything because this is part of me's always been curious as to why you see that so often in Protestantism in particular. There's a lot of like consistent fracturing. It's always bugged me a bit,
Hmm.
So now granted, this it's not necessarily exclusive to Protestant churches or anything. This could just be anecdotal on my part because that's what I've grown up in,
Right.
But you do see it far too often, I think. It almost seems like just about it's like a lot of people I know that have grown up in like a Baptist church or Presbyterian church have been in some church split or other. It seems almost like an inevitability, and it's like, wow, why is that? That's always so weird to me.
Well, it's bad because I guess like when I was growing up, we were part of the the Church of Christ, and
Mhm.
they had every church within that group, within all these groups are different. Our church was pretty strict about like if they kind of pick and chose, I guess some kind of Calvinist beliefs and all that. Like as far as like, well, if they didn't play guitar and or piano and uh, for God, then we or for Jesus rather, and Jesus didn't endorse it. Yeah, he wasn't like, hey, y'all should play the flute. You should play the flute. Then sorry that I made Jesus sound like Obama, but like you should get a tambourine. But like because he didn't say that, the Church of Christ says, well, we will only use our voices. We will only sing, so no music. No music, you only use your voice to, praise God. And never was really exactly a big fan of that. I was never a big fan of like hardcore rock bands in church, because I feel like it gets the message gets a little bit muddled there. And
Yeah, it
that's to
becomes more
everybody's
about the
taste.
music. Yeah, it
Yeah.
becomes more about like, enjoying the beat and the vibes, which I'm like, okay, that's good for a concert, but
Hmm.
you know, uh
I
church,
love a
you're
guitar
supposed to be worship.
solo. Yeah.
Yeah, church is supposed to be, about worship and you're supposed to I think the countenance of worship really should matter. Uh, that's this Jesus is my homeboy attitude is not good.
Yeah.
I've always like I remember when I first gosh, I still remember when I first started seeing like shirts like that and slogans like that, and I'm like, even as and that was coming around when I was probably in like middle school or high school, and I was like,
Yeah.
it's not good, is it? That I don't think that's the right attitude to have. It's like, like Jesus is my friend sounded a little better, but even as I've grown older, I'm like, no, you shouldn't really have that attitude either. The relationship is loving, but he's your Lord, he's your king. Uh,
Right.
it's like you're,
It's like making your
it's like,
dad, your mom and dad, your best. They're my buddies. No, they're
yeah,
still your
yeah, it's
mom and
like,
dad.
yeah, exactly. And that's why even when I hear people like, oh, my best friend is my mom or my dad and everything, I'm like, that's probably not good that that's the relationship. That
Hmm.
doesn't mean there's not a friendly like aspect to that relationship. Like me and my
Right.
dad get along the way friends get along, but I still see him as my father.
Right. You know that
It's
there's a
like there's
certain line that you would cross with your friends, as, like
yeah.
jokes and talk and this and that. That, when it comes to dad, no, I'm not doing that crap. That's my dad.
Mhm.
There's just some lines, that you don't cross with your parents and you shouldn't. And it really deteriorates your relationship in the end because, friends can be put off, but your family, especially the ones who deserve that total respect,
Mhm.
no, they're not a friend. You're not just helping them move. That's your parent, like
Right. Like they should be viewed. Aside from just, the relation you have with them, blood-wise and everything, it's like they're your elder. Uh, there's a respect and kind of an ingrained, constant authority that I think goes on that. Doesn't mean like as an adult you do everything they say necessarily,
right.
but I think you listen to them with that with that kind of submission in mind,
Mm-hmm.
that you should, at the very least, even after, you've gone off on your own merry way, you probably should be listening to them and considering what they say as you would an authority. It's like, yes, ultimately you still have to, since you're the head of your own household, make your own decision and everything. But their, advice, their wisdom should count for a lot. That is something that, obviously this assumes, of course, that you have, parents that are involved and that are good and that, but like even not, and I wouldn't necessarily say they have to be godly. I think the relationship is between yourself and them is going to matter. But like, let's say you're a new convert and your parents are not. I don't think that means you want to dismiss their advice or dismiss the thing they say,
Mm-hmm.
due to unbelief, because they are still going to have valuable like life experience and stuff like that. But obviously, if we're talking about it, like I hope exceptional cases where the parents are bad, they were like abusive or
Right.
weren't involved with you and everything. It's obviously that would change the dynamic somewhat. But assuming you have a healthy relationship with your family, yeah, it's like I don't feel like that should ever quite go away.
No, no, no,
It's
no.
it kind of annoys me right now because you you brought up the music thing, and this morning I had started to listen to an Orthodox priest. Are you familiar with Father Josiah? He was actually pretty popular on YouTube. I had seen him around a lot before I actually started listening to him. I think I
No,
first
no.
came across him. I think the first time I listened to him was that what's his name, Ruslan? Is that the guy? He's Protestant, but this guy's interviewed like a ton of people from like various faiths and whatnot. You might know him if you saw him. He's a pretty popular Christian YouTuber. But he had Father Josiah on and everything, and I was like, oh, okay, this guy's actually really interesting. He seems, he's very, very knowledgeable and everything, and seems like a really interesting guy. I actually enjoyed listening to him, so I started listening to him a little more this week, and he was actually had a video where he talks about music and worship, and I'm like, I really wish I'd paid closer attention because I could add something more to what you were talking about there. And I was like, I didn't pay enough attention to do that. Dang it.
Yeah, yeah. It's a pretty I don't know, and like I said, different churches, in Church of Christ, will do differently. There's some of them I've seen some mega churches in Church of Christ that have light shows, you know, and my big thing, I guess, with my preference in church, and I know that sounds, a little bit, to say like, oh, in my church I prefer, good carpet floor. Now, my big thing, no, don't do direct wooden seats, because if you've ever heard an old person cut a fart on one of those wooden seats, it is ridiculous. It echoes through, and of course, right then at the moment they said, "All right, let's bow our heads," and you hear, "Wah."
There are pews and pews.
Yeah, yeah, and I had like this uncle who thought that he had to buffer. He like coughed and then he buffered for like 1 second and then just cut this terrible speaker. And everybody, like, suddenly everybody turns 4 years old and like,
Oh my
and I
god.
was like,
It's funny because I like the first church I went to as a kid, I'm pretty sure the pews were all wooden like
Yeah.
that.
yeah, well,
I don't
ours-
remember anybody ripping arse during a sermon or anything. But
Well, fortunately,
uh,
after that, they put in padding, and then it was basically a silencer for his arse, But um,
it is funny to think about a church doing that for that specific
I
reason.
feel like they did it just for him because they're like, we
Oh
can't.
wow! I came here a couple years ago. They added padding to the seats. I wonder why they did that. Well, I got a story to tell you.
Yeah, and in the ledger for that church will always be changed out seats due to, quote unquote,
And it was on this day where we silenced the deadly.
But the thing that gets me is I feel like a lot more church should be about the education and dissecting the Bible and helping you apply it to life, rather than sometimes people get too deep into their own stories, and you get the preacher comes in, guest preacher, and he'll be like, I used to be a biker, I got tattoos, I've slept with a possum before, that I've done things, I've seen things, I've been places, and and then what, I prayed about it, and bam, baby, suddenly my life came together, and yours can too, and I'm like, I want a more analytical church. I want, a real somebody who went, studied, or has spent their whole life really trying to break it down. They've been breaking it down before YouTube was available, or they are analytical and they are using all these new tools that we have available to us to really break down the Bible. And there's a fun balance between story time and really actually discussing, it's like telling a joke for claps or telling a joke to make you laugh, that kind of difference and all that. There's sometimes people saying things for amen,
Right.
I feel like. And then there's people who are there to really kind of test you, to kind of make you think, have I been really following this? I mean, I've went to churches where there are still people who think that you can't despite my channel, they think that interracial marriage is a sin because of one line that they've misinterpreted, because they're like people of a different yoke and all that. And
yeah, and I'm like, a different yoke, that's not what that means, really. I mean, granted, I understand like the principle of being cautious of like marrying somebody of a different culture, even because it's like, yes, culture carries values with it, obviously. But if you're specifically if you're a Christian and everything, and we're talking about another Christian, it's like, well, that's where the kind of the ethnic aspect breaks down to where it's kind of meaningless at that point. It's like, okay, if we're talking about Christian and Christian, they hold the same values and everything, and assuming the structure of the relationship is genuinely Christian and everything. Because here's the thing, if it's kind of a phony version of Christianity where there's no submission from the wife, there's no the man's not doing his duties, obviously you're not really in a Christian relationship,
right?
But assuming you have that Christian structure to your relationship, then the difference in ethnicity is pretty meaningless at that point. It
Right.
really
You've
has
assimilated together. You've both assimilated to
Exactly.
Christ. You understand. It's kind of like how voting should be. Like, there should be like kind of like this little test where you're like, hey, so
Mhm.
what do you think this meant? And are you willing to learn? Now, that's I guess something kind of random that I didn't really even think about bringing up. One moment, let's see. Romans 10:17 states that faith comes from hearing, and hearing through the word of Christ.
Yeah, that's kind of in going back to the thing about like the constant like kind of storytelling we tend to see,
hmm
because it seems like this is a widespread problem in a lot of churches. I mean, I can't speak for like Roman Catholic service or an Orthodox like homily or anything like that. I
Right.
would assume that the latter doesn't have that kind of stuff, at least probably not in high quantities. Um, but I mean, I don't necessarily mind a story if it's quick and it's genuinely like analogous. Like if you're actually trying to illustrate a point, and it doesn't take up the whole of the sermon, I'm like, okay, that can be useful. I've heard, I've encountered a lot of pastors that, or at least a few pastors that are genuinely good at stories that actually are analogous to what is being discussed in scripture, and they're trying to tell you, okay, this is an example of applying this principle. I'm like, okay,
Right.
that's good. I can live with that. That's fine. Granted, you could still argue, potentially at least, that maybe the better place for that isn't a sermon. It's more like a YouTube video.
Yeah.
It depend. I mean, it would kind of, I guess, depend on what is the proper structure for a worship service. That's part of why I'm kind of looking into this stuff, is because I actually am curious if the Bible has prescriptive instruction for how such a thing should go. But as far as just the analogous story thing is concerned, it's like, yes, I'm okay with those in principle. It's just there are so many services that becomes the predominant feature, where there's very little actual scripture, there's very little talk of genuine application, it's more just like you said, you're trying to get an amen, and
Mhm.
there's maybe a little bit of what you see uh in the in the verses in this story, but it's very, very loose. It's not particularly good uh for application and whatnot. And because I mean, to me, it's like that's one thing I see lacking in a lot of services is there really isn't a whole lot of instruction on how to apply. It's more just a suggestion that you do. That's really bad. It's like, well, if you're actually, it's like you're telling them, you should do this. And I'm like, oh, okay. So how do we do that? It's like, y'all have a good week. It's like, oh, thanks. It's like, thanks for
Yeah,
that.
where
That's
where do we
not
put the
helpful.
application to this? It's we had somebody who came in that day to fill in. Preacher's voice was out, and this has been a while back, and he was he was going to a formal seminary, but basically this guy you could tell. And no, being a preacher doesn't mean you have to be super duper well spoken and all that, but it kind of helps. Uh,
Hmm.
and this one fella came in and he made me look like he'd make me look like such a great guest speaker. And yeah, he was like, well, y'all, I used to be a plumber, but now I'm a plumber for God. And I was like, okay,
What?
what a way to open it up, And he related everything that happened to him to his life to Paul, and he said, he goes, I'm bilingual because I was raised partly by Mexicans. So
Paul
Saul,
was the great roto rooter of the early church. You understand?
Saul, he could speak the Roman language and he could speak the Jewish language. I was like, okay, we got that going for us now. And he was like talking about how he was, saying all these bad words working underneath somebody's sink, and he'd go after customers and overcharge them on purpose while he's working for this other company and all that. And then he was under there, and he said, I said GD, and at that moment, that's when I busted open the hot water, and it blinded me, just like Saul, who then became Paul. And I was like, holy crap, I gotta go. I looked at him.
That was probably the title of the sermon.
You gotta go. Oh man, I had to go, dude. I told yeah. I
Like,
told my
nah,
wife. I said,
fam, this substitute teacher, he ain't it.
I grabbed my wife's thing. I said, I'm gonna go outside. I'm gonna smoke a cigarette, and I'm gonna. I think, and she was already like, she knows I'm a kind of a dick about things and all that. And I was really not trying to be judgy, because go him that he is equating his life to Paul. But it was pretty amazing. I mean, this goes into many examples and all that.
I mean, it's like you achieved being memorable. I will give you that, but I'm not sure for the reasons you had hoped for, my dude.
He said I was too
Wow.
big, so and Weymouth wasn't there to help me on out, so they had to.
That sin was just floating there and just would not go down.
They had to lower me down, just like Paul, outside the walls, so that way he were not found. And when
Oh my
people start
gosh.
talking, they want to include a little bit of old King James in their speech all of a sudden. And I have a little problem about that when suddenly somebody's talking to you about the Bible or anything about the Bible, and suddenly they're like, yay. They start using different. You're like, whoa. Did you just you watch like an old British comedy or something like that? I don't know. We're like, what are we doing here? Like, your speech patterns just changed. Like, well, dost thou flush thine toilet with mine hand? No, I say nay. Yeah, like
Oh my
but
gosh.
yeah, but
Starts using the word shout as like a substitute for the S word.
yeah, like
I had to unclog the shout from the
that
porcelain
was,
throne.
I told him, shout not, and he's like, I did. Uh,
There was shout everywhere.
sin. This is a quote right here. Sin is like a turd that clogs the toilet.
Toilet.
The
It's true.
toilet. Yes.
It's true.
You know. The path to hell is lined with many a chud, many a chode. um, I now something that you made me think of is when you were discussing that earlier was there are people who get into their marriage and like with mine, I had faith before. I grew up in a church, and you know, and when I grew up in that church, I really had like a blind, very adolescent kind of false faith. I just knew, you know, this is what I'm supposed to say and what I'm supposed to do and believe and all that. And I'm not really. Yeah, at that time, I wouldn't consider myself other than being a youth. I couldn't really consider myself saved and all that. So, but as I grew up, different things happened and it tested me. And some, I've failed massively on, and then some, I was like, well, good. I came out of that with, way less, sinful scars than I could have had. But when I got married, I got married to such a good woman that fortunately she was, she made me better in my faith. And that's a prize right there. And
Absolutely.
it got to the point where, where it made me want to be better as a Christian. And then I've over time helped her be better as a Christian because, I'm one of those people. I want to break down every verse, with her at times, and we talk and talk and talk about it until, she's like, oh, well, I just didn't think about it or didn't know that, and so it helps, each other. But there are some people who, are in marriages, and one of them might have been a Christian, or neither of them are Christian, and then one converts, and then they get into kind of a situation there where eventually, and to your understanding, and I know I could probably figure it out over time, but that's a tough situation right there. Like, when your partner just refuses to become that.
Oh, yeah, that's if you're
That's
yeah,
a pickle.
that is very much a pickle. That's a pickle. That's one probably old plumber pastor I help with. But no, it's yeah, if you being in a situation where
You gotta flush that sin. All right, sorry, go ahead.
like the interesting thing to me is it would like the perspective of it being where if like say like it's the wife that becomes the Christian first
Mm-hmm.
versus how it would be like if the man became the Christian first. I think if you're in a relationship where the man is at the very least the head of the family or at least acts as it, if he becomes a Christian first, I think 99 times out of 100 you're probably going to have the wife fall in line with it too, which is great. I mean that's a
Right.
very good thing. I think that's demonstrative of the order, the design of marriage that God set up in the first place. I think that's probably why that would likely occur that way. It may not be 99 times out of 100, but more often than not, I would say
Right.
that's probably how it's going to go down. I think if it's the wife who converts first, it's probably a little bit more difficult. Um, and it'll largely depend on how she behaves from there. Also, like, 'cause I have heard stories where the wife is the earliest of the two to convert, and the ones that the stories like that tend to end well are the ones where the wife starts. Now, she may, I don't know if these wives in these stories necessarily were like this before, but at the very least, it seems as though they started to come under their husbands and listen to him as though he was a Christian, and they became more
Oh,
submissive and everything like that. And that's kind of how they demonstrated the change. Is like, okay, if I'm a Christian now, I want my husband to be one as well. And so it's like, well, I'm going to start coming under his authority. I'm going to start listening to him. I'm going to start, behaving as a Christian wife should in hopes that he will change as well. And those stories that I've heard have tended to end very well. But yeah, there are obviously the examples where it doesn't. I guess depending on what sect of Christianity you belong to, there are outs for that, I suppose.
yeah.
Uh, I know some churches would recognize that as like, okay, then that marriage can, that's not going to necessarily be held against you that you
Mhm.
are a Christian, so I think on the Protestant side, it might be a little bit different depending on which church you belong to there. Some of them would say, "No, you're still supposed to stay married." Some would say, "Well, that's not really a Christian marriage, it kinda depends." I think on the more reform side, they tend to have closer to a traditional view on that,
Mhm.
where it's like you would not be, like, held to that marriage necessarily, but I don't know, I'm some of this is a little bit of guesswork, but if my recollection is correct, that's how I would put that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, but the reality is one way or the other that especially if you have children involved, that divorce is gonna be very ugly. Uh,
Yes. You wanna do
I
your
know, like
best to keep that thing together and
yeah,
repair, what was broken to begin with, you know?
like my mom and dad's marriage, like, that was pretty devastating. That was especially with all the kids they have, uh, that was bad. That was really, really bad. And while their relationship at times they're able to get along, uh, it's never for very long. And I know it's like they do kind of best to avoid each other, not out of
Mhm.
hatred necessarily, but it's just like the damage it caused. It's like it's still felt today. I mean, it's been over a decade now, but it's like it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's like you kind of blew everything up, so the whole dynamic changes. All the holidays are completely different now, and uh, whereas it kind of leaves all the kids where just like, could you all not talk about one another? Because I don't want. It's like
Yeah, don't
I don't
make me
want to
do
hear that.
this.
It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like I don't want to be in the middle of your all's junk, and it's really frustrating. But uh, those can be really tough to navigate. So
As far
yeah,
as I
it's a
understand,
really hard thing.
especially, like, um, getting into, a marriage, under really you're getting into a marriage under false pretenses, and really what you're doing is you're doing the government side of marriage, and this has been something that was hard for my wife to understand, as far as like uh uh, like I definitely consider it a good thing to get married on paper, through the government that you're supposed to try to respect and all that, and but
It's
it is
far
just
better to do it
that.
through the church. If you're a Christian, far more
Uh-huh.
meaningful to do it through the church.
Well, yeah, and that's my thing is like, if we had never got married through the state, I still would have considered our marriage, as legally binding as possible, as like our marriage is binding. Like we never needed the state, because it came about whenever we were talking about like who's allowed to get married nowadays and blah blah blah. And I was like, yeah, well, that's a very kind of touchy subject. I said, I don't really care if so and so is getting married, because I don't have to respect their marriage, because they're getting married by the state. I don't like it, and I can vote against it and stuff like that. But it just goes to show that my country's idea of marriage is way different than mine.
Mhm.
Uh, and I don't like that for our country, but it is what
No,
it
I mean, one of the
is.
one of the, it's funny 'cause I saw I was at work. I had a lot of time to, like, just mess around at work yesterday. We did so little yesterday, so I was just kind
Hmm.
of browsing Twitter, playing Balatro, and listening to podcasts and music and whatnot all day.
Yeah,
It was,
it was good.
I mean, it was a fun work day. Did
It
very
was a
little, got
good
paid. It
day.
was a very good day. But, I saw this post about this football player who just signed this huge deal, like $200 million contract, and he was about to get married, but they called off the wedding. I don't know how long, like just a few weeks before it was supposed to happen. Apparently, the
Oh
reason
wow.
it got called off is because he wanted her to sign a prenup. He's trying to
Mm.
protect his assets. I saw this guy basically saying, "Oh, like, because the question they asked was, did he dodge a bullet?" And this person was like, "I think she dodged the bullet and everything. If he's not willing," he's like, "A prenups just show a lack of trust and honor and blah blah blah." And I was like, "Okay, hang on." I used to think that. I did used to think that way. I was like, "Here's the reality: we're in a society of no fault divorce, and yes, honor and trust, all that, those are wonderful things. Those are things everybody should absolutely maintain. Those are great. But here's the reality: uh, incentive is powerful. And if you're just going to willy-nilly get married and you are worth hundreds of millions of dollars, I mean, in his case, I think his contract was something like $200+ million. It's like what you're basically doing by getting married with no prenup is you are giving her immediately an over $100 million incentive to divorce you.
Right.
It's like there is an incentive for her to divorce him. Like that's the reality of it. That will hang over their marriage, however long it lasts, is whatever he's worth. There is a massive incentive to walk away. So if you're going to naively sit there and act like that should not be accounted for, because ideally no fault divorce wouldn't even exist. That's one of the greatest evils ever enacted upon our country. That is a great evil that was enacted upon the country. But it exists. And I think it's like I used to be very anti-prenup because I thought, yeah, it betrayed the notion of marriage, like the ideals. But the reality is, I think a prenup, and here's the thing, prenups are not fail-safes either, but assuming they work, I think to me, that's a legal counter to no-fault divorce. Like I don't think it really actually betrays the ideals of marriage, really. I think it's a safeguard. And I think and unfortunately for people who have a lot of assets, that is a necessary safeguard. Like, divorce is ugly, and when you have incentive to do it, the fact of the matter is more people do it. That's the reality of things.
Absolutely.
And I understand why some people are like, well, wait a minute, but what happens if, the guy leaves and she gets nothing? And I'm like, well, this is why we need to get back to a more, traditional family structures, because, back in the day when divorce was very rare, if in fact one happened, for reasons like abuse or something like that, the woman would still have her family to fall back on. She would have their parents. She could have brothers and sisters. She would have we had a more family-centric dynamic to where it's like the woman's not going to be left out in the cold with nothing and everything. She's going to have people she can fall back on. She may even have trades of her own that she would do from home. And shoot, the kind of frustrating thing is that we actually have a society to where a more traditional structure would kind of be easier on the woman.
Yes.
For her to have trades and things that she could do and sell and make money off of for the family at home. We are in a society that would enable traditional family structure so well, but we're moving completely the opposite direction. It's like, like a lot of those concerns that I see people raise about, if the man leaves the woman, then she's left out in the cold, she has nothing. And I'm like, it is far easier to avoid that now, even if you're not, close to your parents or close to your siblings who could protect you and everything. We have a much better societal structure for that now.
Right. There are so many protections, safety nets nowadays for people. It's not like as some 1800 stuff where it's like, well, my only choices are the town drunk or third cousin Bob, the plumber. And he's busy casting out the demons. That's not really a great choice and all that, but here I am becoming an old nanny, at the bitter old age of 19, and I still not have a guy, so I'm gonna have to go with the town drunk. He may be a wayward soul, but I can fix him and blah blah blah. And then eventually one day he's obviously cheating on her. And he also wants to move. Yeah, he moved her away from her family, and he's been cheating on her, and he's not worth a darn. And they got a baby and this and all that. That isn't really how it has to go nowadays. So these bonus protections that are set up because I feel more like lawyers need money. Lawyers like money, and so they're like well, this state will if you get a divorce and all that, it's basically 50-50, and there's always the argument of like who was working, who wasn't, how much did they work? Did they, just bring in their extra tips, and use that for, for the family's, dining? And, did that food, is that the only reason he was able to actually, keep living and work at a higher paying job, maybe because, that's what he's into, or that's what the economy needs and all that. A lot of those protections are, in place already to take care of, somebody of divorce, no matter what kind of situation that they were in. Probably less so for guys, yeah, I feel like, but w- yeah, you exactly. That's why I felt like you were so right about that, is because the current system does, really encourage, that you don't have it's not slim pickings out there. In fact, you can find people from all over, and you can do the smart thing and actually, date them without, the constant worry of like, well, the whole town's going to gossip about us, dating and, this and that, without getting married and, um, or whatever, traditions versus Bible, there's a big difference, but there was a lot of things forced on people just because they thought it looked bad back in the day. And somebody would be like, well, hey, how you're living ain't good, it's like, well, yeah, if you're living under the same roof and all that, blah blah, yeah. But people have so many opportunities now to take their time and make a good choice, so that way they don't end up getting divorced, so that way, so if somebody wants to get a prenup, I totally approve, because it's almost like we're in a world that is has a lot of sin in it or something like that. It's weird how that works, but it's almost like we live in a fallen world at times. And
Yeah, crazy how that works.
yeah, so if people aren't in the right place, that's just how it is. Then you don't have to get married. And you especially don't have to limit yourself to because every state is different. Every state weighs out things on who's going to get the kids, pretty heavily leaning towards one side, towards one gender. So I don't
the
blame.
other thing is,
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying I don't blame it. Is it Dak Prescott that guy could only talk about here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, and here's the other thing, because I don't want to make it sound like we're just completely being downers on concept of marriage or anything. No, not at all. In fact, oftentimes you hear these numbers touted about, like, the high divorce rates and stuff like that, and I'm like, but you have to understand there's a lot of nuance that doesn't get brought up in those statistics, and the most telling is that Christian religious marriages are far, far lower than those statistics you often see.
Yeah.
Assuming, if you're in, and that's true of, Orthodox, Catholic, Protestant, divorce rates for a practicing couple. And again, practicing is kind of the key word here. It's not, we're not just talking about like name it and claim it Christians. You just go out there saying, oh, I'm a Christian, but they don't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they're not part of the statistic, but practicing Christians of, those three main branches all have considerably lower divorce rates. So it almost seems like a devotion to God and his way of doing things is kind of the best medicine in this society we have. It's like, if you're trying to dodge these pitfalls, because we have a lot of people out there who's telling you, it's like, well, you just shouldn't get married. And it's like things are just too stacked against you, particularly for the male. And I'm like, okay, I agree that it's very much stacked up against the male. I agree that the dating pool is very thin. You could argue, I mean, I'm not going to call myself a victim of it because I'm not married and everything. I wouldn't describe myself that way, but it's okay. It's true. I'm not married. But the reality is like, look, it's, if you want to get married, and I'm a person who would like to, and you find somebody that you do want to marry and you will do have similar values, and assuming you are a practicing Christian of one of those three main sects, just understand that if you are indeed practicing, and you and this, person in your life, are practicing together, and you maintain that, then your marriage, you can feel, secure in that marriage, that if you all continue to, maintain your Christian practice, the likelihood is that your marriage is going to be just fine.
Right.
Yeah. Doesn't mean you can be lazy about it, but then that's kind of the point, is like, if you're practicing, you're not being lazy about it.
Right. And that's pretty applicable to and a little bit personal, but like Cannoli and and Mrs. Sassy, how much has their life improved in the bonds of marriage, and just him publicly saying it, basically things have improved, the closeness has improved, and the family life has improved, since they both, they when they're younger, they were probably like us, might have been put into church young and stuff like that, and you grow up and you have the concept, you have the idea, and yeah, you may vaguely believe, or you may truly wholeheartedly believe, just not really following exactly the way you should. But then you get together, and then their marriage has grown even stronger ever since they got
Mhm.
married. I mean,
What I'll say, it always
ever
seems
since
you're
they've been practicing. Sorry, yeah, they
uh,
got better since they got better.
they was sinning before,
They
but
was flushing it down. They flushed down the sin.
I'll say is one really refreshing thing about being friends with Cannoli. And I assume probably those who talk to Sassy more often, everything.
Hmm.
Sassy's not in our little group chat and everything, but like one of the things I always find, I guess, distasteful when I've been friends with other people like in the past and stuff, or even just like coworkers and stuff. Like one of the like one of the hugest red flags I would ever see is like when I'd see like a woman at work or something talking bad about her husband at home, or
Yeah.
not at work with her then, and I'm like, why are you talking about your spouse behind their back? What are you doing? That's awful. I don't like to
Hmm.
see men do it. I don't like to see women do it. I don't like to see anybody really to do that. If it's like, if you and your spouse have problems, uh, do not discuss. I think that is not something you should be discussing with people outside of that marriage, other than if you have like a priest or a pastor that is there to help restore, you know, what's being damaged and everything. It's like if you're just gossiping about your spouse, I'm like, that's really ugly to me.
Yeah.
And again, what's refreshing about being friends with Cannoli is, so it's like anytime he talks about his wife, it's in either concerned terms because she's sick, or glowing terms because he loves her.
Hmm.
And I'm like, gosh, that's great. It's like, gosh, that's really
Rare.
really great. You don't see that all the time. I wouldn't say you don't ever see it, because you do. It's like there are people
Hmm.
out there who talk very kindly about their spouse and think the world of them the way you should. Uh, or it's like truly it's their other half and they love them dearly and everything. And it's like that's always refreshing. 'Cause yeah, it's gosh, I know the place I used to work at for like 13 years. I'd see a lot of people there who would talk bad about their spouse, and sure enough, it wouldn't be long from them that you'd hear like, oh, they're cheating on them, or they are
Yeah.
about to get divorced or something. And I'm like, well, you could kind of see that coming because you're gossiping about them behind their back, and it's pretty nasty. Don't Are you doing that? Uh, yeah, it's
It's not a
always
good
refreshing to see the
practice.
other side of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always nice when you see the opposite side of that.
Yeah. I've been
And yes,
guilty
and
of
yes,
it.
Sassy, if you're out there, I'm not just saying that because you happen to be out there and everything. Yes, anytime Cannoli brings you up, uh, it's in very nice,
Yeah.
disgusting, glowing terms. Like, "Ugh, stop!" No,
Bleh.
it's really nice. It's actually really nice.
Please clap.
It was. So I have
Little
been
jab.
guilty of, in my first few years of marriage, because I'd be at work, and your first few years of marriage, you're talking to others because they're older than you, and you work together. And I was talking to a sister-in-law, on my side of the family, while we're working and all that, and venting my frustrations, because I was like, I can't be expected to do X and Y and then come home and Z is not done, or that's a problem. And then I'm kind of bitching about the family, and the slow conversion that of family getting used to you getting used to them and all that. And finally one day I kind of I looked at my sister-in-law, because I noticed that she was kind of like egging me into conversation, like almost like she wanted to, gossip with me about it and just have something, like she brought it up kind of like passively. And I got kind of offended. I said, well, she's not bad. She's not, this and that. And I was like, blah, blah, blah. And it kind of, I got a little bit butthurt about it. I was like, but how can I get butthurt about it if I've encouraged that conversation to happen? because now you have a reference point of somebody that you don't even know. You and my wife don't hang out, and now only negative stuff about her, really, and that if somebody else talks about her in some way, I get pissy about it. You can't do that. That's a double standard, and it's really not healthy. And I told her, I was like, I said, I'm gonna probably stop talking about my wife up here. I said, because it's just become like nothing but negative. And I said, when she's like the greatest person in my life, so yeah. And after that, I had to correct that, because that was a real big problem. Hey, Zach, how you doing, sir?
What up,
Hope
Zach?
Canada is doing all right. But yeah, that was a big problem. And I felt pretty bad about it. And I actually just went home and told her about it. I was like, hey, so this is why, she goes, well, I always feel like your sister, in-law doesn't like me. I'm like, oh, she doesn't like anything, and I was just joking, but, kind of, but like, I can't be, I told her, I was like, listen, I said that you didn't do this. I was complaining about, I was venting one night, and venting, that starts to become a phrase, a word that we use, to get away with saying, I was talking shit about you. And you can't, that doesn't really work. Okay. It doesn't work in a healthy marriage. And
Yeah, it's
just
kind
like
of
you
almost
said,
like carrying over. It's carrying over almost like dating behavior.
yes.
That yeah, and that's why it's an easy trap to fall into, I think, in the early years.
Mhm.
Is because when you're just dating, especially if you're like dating, I don't know how old you two were when you all first got together or
Mhm.
anything. So assuming like saying it's like, you have a couple that gets married young, or they don't have a lot of experience beyond, kind of the youthful dating and everything.
Mhm.
It's fairly normal, I guess, when you're dating someone like you if there's something to complain about, you might do that. So you almost forget once you're married and everything, it's like, okay, this is a bit more of a sacred vow
Right.
relationship that I'm in
Right.
now. So you're because generally speaking, when you're talking to like friends and stuff about the other person that you're dating and everything, you're kind of, it's part of testing the waters of, am I in the right relationship or stuff? You're kind of asking for advice and everything of other people that are in similar circumstances and whatnot. Whereas when you're married, it's like, okay, you've already made the commitment. So that's like it's like the approach needs to be very different, because now it's like you're not supposed to be testing any of those waters anymore. You're supposed to be like, okay, I need to look to people who can help me maintain this thing I've committed to. So the dynamic has shifted.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's one of those things that it's an easy thing to forget early on, but hey, you learn. It's like you learned from
Yeah,
it.
yeah, you learn, and you better learn, or else it's going to end up in divorce. So,
Well, they
y'all,
actually say one of the biggest red flags for a married woman in particular is if your wife is friends with a bunch of women who are also divorced, that's
Mhm.
bad.
Yeah.
It's like those are probably the friends she should avoid. If she's around a bunch of women who are divorced, it's like if you're the husband, you'd be like, I don't want you hanging around them so much, because they might start trying to steer you towards doing the
Encouraging.
same. As misery loves company, that's a true thing.
So, I think that, the problem is that I came from, I came from, as far as my immediate family, my mother and father, they've, kept, they've been married this entire time, getting close to, oh, I hate to say it, but I think they're in their like 46th year of marriage or something like that. Yeah, they've
Wow.
been married a long time, um, and they've went through ups and downs, and they worked their way through it. Uh, but me, on the other hand, like when I came around, so I had good examples around me, but when I got going to relationships and all that, I came out like thinking that I wanted to be as happy as them, kind of thing, and immediately wanted the same love that you would get out of a really good adult relationship. And guess what? You're not going to find that in high school. You're not going to find that right after high school. Usually, that's just kind of a fairy tale kind of thing. It's highly unlikely. And I was, like that song, searching for nub in all the wrong places and all that. I was searching for love in all the wrong places, and that led to like basically becoming a whore because or a slut, I guess, and all that, because I barely got paid. But that led to so many freaking problems because you go from one to the other, to the point where your friends are joking about it, your family starts joking about it, and said, "Oh, the family slut, come here," And I was like, "Oh," it started to sound bad and all that, but I don't know. I guess I kept on seeking that, and I was just so happy that to be in relationships, because I thought I'm kind of a dork. I don't know if I'll ever get into relationships. And then when 15 hit, I was in all the relationships, to the point where before I got married, I had decided, what, I'm going to not date for about 5 years. I'm gonna do a 5-year plan. And I'm going to save a bunch of money, and if I'm going to be with anybody, you can tell where I was in my relationship with Christ at the time too, because I was like, if I need to be with anything, I'll get with something. I'll hook up with a chick and move on. I'll find me a buddy, and just not be dedicated to anything except for saving up my money, working on my own life, my own mental health, and this and that. And I said, kind of done just with women, for a while. I'm just gonna be done. Apparently I need to be alone. And some people do, some people need to refine themselves before they try to make a relationship. And then like 2 days later, after I said that, a girl I went to high school with was, messaged me back on, Facebook, and was like, "Hey, so if you ever did want to talk and all that," because she didn't want to talk to me, on early Facebook. It was still called the Facebook. She didn't want to talk to me because she was dating somebody, and she thought it was improper. I was like, "Oh, well, no, I totally get that." I was like, "Wow, look at her, somebody who doesn't want to talk to another guy on the side and all that." But I just kept on running into her. She was working at the local store. And then one day I looked on a video that my dad had got home from a wedding. He's like, "Hey, I had to be the best man at somebody's wedding," and he goes, "The girl that I had to walk down the aisle as part of my part and all that was somebody that went to school with you." And I was like, "What?" And I saw the video. I was like, "Dang, she got hot," and and then I kept on seeing her at the store, and all these things kept on kind of going back to, probably need to get with her. She seems like a good person. And we've like I said, 2 days after I decided I'm done with it all, I ended up talking to her. And then within 3 months of us dating, I asked, for her for her to marry me, and so while we did get into it pretty quick, we got super duper lucky because there were all the stumbling blocks that I had put in front of me by not being closer in my faith, and by not kind of like what you're talking about, like still kind of in like dating mode even though you're married and all that, not taking the marriage as seriously as it should have been. That could have screwed us over so bad. And we both had things to get over, getting into our marriage and stuff like that, and learning that, to no longer cling to parents and such like that. And, to get done with that safety net of your parents when it's, it comes down to it's got to be you and her, She got over a few things, and I got over my things, and it's great, and it's where it should be now. Now from here on out, it can only do nothing but get better. But at the same time, we I don't know. I guess I'm glad that we both recognized it before it was too late. That
Oh yeah.
we needed to get stronger in our faith and stronger together in that way. And mainly, it was a lot of growing up on my end and following through, being the husband, being the man in the relationship, and actually providing her a good reason. You got to give
Mhm.
them a good reason. You got to follow up to the, like, submit to your man and blah blah blah. That's kind of a big deal, and you have a lot to live up to honor that word. And
Yeah.
it's you know I don't know. It's been great, but it is also it should have been a bigger deal than it was, and I think a lot of people don't take that into account.
Well, here's the other thing, and I don't want to give anybody the incorrect impression here. Talking to Whitey, it's like he also brings up his wife in very kind, glowing terms as well. So
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's not exclusive to Cannoli and everything, but I was like, just I was like, we're the two people in the conversation, so it's like we tend to like I figured I would steer that towards somebody else at the moment, but it's like no, it's very much true with you as well, and I'm
Oh
like,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
this is
yeah. It's just
great.
it
To chat with
did
two
kind of
dudes
remind
who
me. Yeah, it did remind me that I needed to probably bring that up because I don't want to sound like I'm, Mr. Perfect over here. Like, yeah, yeah, I talk about my wife go good all the time too. It's like, because part of this is also admitting, like, part of this show is also admitting my failures, so that way people can learn from it, and and understand that if you do have that good kind of marriage, like, enjoy, embrace it, and keep that thing alive, because and keep your faith and all that alive, because that is, but I totally understood that. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. But no, I didn't know. I did not know that your parents had been divorced.
oh
Um,
yeah, yeah.
uh,
I know.
I,
I mean, it's not a subject that's fun to talk about, obviously. So I try to speak on the more optimistic end, where I talk a lot about, my and granted, it's not to say there aren't good things to talk about with my parents. I love my
yeah,
parents.
yeah,
Granted, like it's their strain at times because of the divorce. I mean, that's just a hard hurdle to overcome, and it's one of those things. It's like whenever you're around, it's there. Uh, but yeah, when I generally talk about my family, I like to talk about my siblings and stuff like
well, this whole
that.
time I
And
thought you were white, so I didn't know. Okay.
what are you talking about? I am white, but
Uh,
I am white.
oh, sorry, I had to. I can't go
That's
too
funny
long
though.
without it. But let's see, let's see. Canoa says life is very hard, and so am I. And it's much better to have a
Oh
great a spouse help you through it. Yes, it is.
yeah,
It's freaking hardcore, and it's rare, and it's like I. It's why, like, I want all my friends, to have that same thing. Um, but boy, is it kind of hard to tell some people, that hey, before you get, I want to pass on that advice, and I do it in as gentle a way as I can, because I don't want to push people, because I don't know, so many people are freaking jaded that it's hard to spread anything to them without sounding like oh, they're a hardliner or whatever. I don't know, but um like friend up at work, uh definitely got into a marriage under this similar circumstances. Like, they both grew up in church for a while, and then got out. One person claimed that they had a bad very bad experience in church, and then that ruined church for them, and they're no longer willing to, made them lose their faith. I'm like, okay,
mm.
no, so that's that situation. And then
I mean,
they,
granted, I can
yeah,
always. I mean, look, this is not in any way letting a church off the hook. But then again, I don't have like any like real knowledge of their church to go off of. What I have
hmm,
is the person who loses their faith, and I'm like, so what you're telling me is you probably didn't have very strong faith to begin
right,
with. I
absolutely,
mean, if you can lose it on the basis of one of like the behavior of a church, then I would say you had a bad foundation to begin with.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
so I mean, I'm not necessarily trying to be disparaging, but it's like I think that's just a fair observation to make. It's
no,
like
and it's
you need it
also
if you
hard to
need
say that to them too.
if you need a church to treat you a certain way to have faith, it's like your faith's not supposed to be rooted in the people in your congregation. It's supposed to be rooted in Christ, and that's why you're encouraged to have to follow His commands and to have a relationship with Christ and everything is and because that's what that means. It's like you're reading about His commands, you're listening to what they mean and how to apply them, and you're doing it, and it's like then that's the foundation of your faith, not the people in my church are mean.
Yeah.
So
Well, then you go and find a new church, or like go home and experience the most intense training that you probably ever had by making yourself actually read the book, and then start going and looking into lessons, because after a while sometimes the reading can just be like, well, I'm reading it, but am I actually digesting? That goes into everything in life, but and it helps to find good figures online to go into verses and go into what the meaning and application, kind of like what your preacher should be doing. But it's I get it, a bad experience. Like we found our old church, the first one that I talked about, that particular Church of Christ was becoming more and more snooty, because literally right across the road was a private school that was like you're going to be paying like $4,000 a year, for your kid to go there. And at the least, I guess, and all that. It's probably a lot higher now. And everybody had their own cliques, like we're part of this school kind of group and all that. And we all drive the same, very fancy vehicles. And, whose vehicle is the shiniest? Who parks up front the most? Who sits up front? Who gets recognized? And, it kind of, became obvious to me one day. And I said it to my mom, because by the end of it, it's only me and her going to church. And I was like, Mom, I really don't like this place. And, I had a few events that were just like, I was able to point out specific things, and she was like, yes, I know. And she's like, okay, well, yeah. And, her health had, started to come on the decline at that time too. So we both stopped going. Her faith never ceased, and, hasn't. And, mine took a break, because what was I doing in church the whole time? I was literally halfway listening. I was going through the motions. I would every now and then hear the preacher. Wasn't really hearing the message. I'd go to the bathroom and play a new game called Pokemon on my on my Game Boy. And those were some nice bathrooms too. They had good fans in them. They were spacious. I was like, man, I could take a dump in here for ages. But oh man, we're getting back to Mr. Paul. But anyway, I was flushing the sin away. But he was but I wasn't even there getting the right message anyway, so that was partly on me. And so when I left, I stopped learning for a while, until I hit later in my teenage years, and I started to I decided one day I was gonna start up a very early YouTube channel and basically read over a chapter and go over that chapter and then talk about it. And it was pretty funny, because I was using this Canon PowerShot camera that had to sit up and and have it record me talking. No extra audio help there. It was Windows Movie Maker stuff and all that. But oddly enough, I found the videos like a few years later, and I was talking about Job and breaking that down, and kind of going through my understanding, and and also what theologians had put in the bottom of my Bible, and then discussing how much I understood of it. And I found like there were some people from Brazil who were definitely following the heck out of my channel. They were like, yes, preach, brother.
Yes.
It's like, well, somebody got something out of that, so that's nice. But
That would be like really funny if like you were to find out.
Gotta
Like you go to this
follow it.
other you go to this other country and like there's like this little town and they have like this little emblem of like
blonde,
they have your
curly
channel,
headed person.
they have like your channel emblem like hanging on their walls and stuff. It's like, what is that? It's like, oh, there's this YouTuber called the White Bear. We follow the White Bear.
we follow the way of the White Bear. He really loved Job. He really loved Job. So basically, their understanding of the Bible, Le Bible is all El Bible.
Have you heard the story of the plumber? I don't know why I don't even know why I'm incorporating this accent. I don't know what Portuguese sound like, but it's like, have you heard of the plumber preacher? His epistles.
Well, they gotta sound like Guga, I guess. And I'm like, he's like, we're gonna learn about what the White Bear said. Let's do it. Oh man, these streams
I know this White Bear message doesn't sound good right now, but watch this.
Well, watch this. And
You walk into the town, like you get drawn to the town because you hear the little dun, 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 dun. It's like, what is that sound? I must be in Brazil.
Yeah,
that's like,
supposed to be
their national anthem.
It is the only rock and roll most of us know. It came from epicsound.com.
Like they sacrifice like 5 pounds of picanha to the White Bear.
He really loved Job. That's, by the end of it, I think that's like I had 5 videos out and it was still just like I'm gonna break this down all the way. I'm gonna talk about Job, every bit of it, and how to apply it, and blah blah blah, and, even with my early understandings and all that. I was just like, I gotta get this out there because I had decided to there was a website called fireman.org, and I guess it's the audio book of the Bible before audiobooks were a thing, and you can just go to the website and you can listen to all the Bible being read out to you, and King James, and I was listening to that while reading my Bible at the same time because I'm one of those people, like, if I don't say it or speak it at least really hardcore in my mind, or mumble the words, I feel like I don't retain it as much, and especially nowadays now that I'm older. But and that really helped me get through the entire Bible because it especially if you start out in Old Testament, some of the things seem just kind of wild for you to read, and it's hard for you to kind of get the concept. And we all know about the begets and begots, and but a lot of us are, and he begot the shat, the shall not. But then of course, New Testament is a lot easier for people to get into. There's a reason why they have the pocket Bibles usually is New Testament and stuff like that. Just to give people that quick introduction and reference point and stuff like that.
I think a good way, especially if you're somebody who's kind of just getting into the Bible, and I think a similar principle applies to movies. Like I often tell people, it's a good idea to see if you're iffy on whether you like or dislike a movie. It's like, okay, watch it again, because that familiarity is going to help you. It's like now you have some context to go off of, and you have some familiarity with what you're watching, so you can catch good or bad things a little easier. I think with Bible reading, I actually think it's worthwhile to listen to an audio version of scripture, even potentially first, or even if you're like say maybe a good way to do it is, okay, how about start by listening to maybe the book of Genesis or something like that.
Right.
And then starting to read it. And then as you're reading it, if you have say you're playing something relaxing, you're doing something relaxing. It's like, okay, while you're in your Bible time reading Genesis, then audio wise, you've moved on to Exodus and everything. You're gaining some familiarity with it. That way, when you read it, it's a little easier to get through it because the Bible's a very complex book. So there are parts of it that, yes, it's difficult to keep your attention because there's context to it that takes a long time to get familiar with. But if you're at the very least familiar with the words, you start to understand it a little bit better. and are able to get through it. But I mean, because the reality is, like, the Bible is just something that should be read and studied pretty much all your life if you're a Christian. There's really no stopping point. There is a wealth of knowledge and wisdom and understanding, and it's it's the most important book in your life. So you better you better be working towards understanding it. But I do think if you start with audio, it's a good way to develop some familiarity before as you're getting into reading it. So
Yeah.
the fact that we have that tool, it's like that's a good thing. So might as well utilize it.
Yeah, it's and as much as attention as I feel like a lot of us give, I give maybe now finally less and less media my attention, because I know that there are things that I need to work on, in my own time in life and all that. Like, boy, I should really be painting or something. I should really be cleaning this up and cleaning that up, and I should be taking care of my land a little bit better. So grounding yourself back into reality. Some of us have jobs, and like your channel focuses on forms of media, and you unfortunately have to ingest more than maybe you want to. But I've been trying to make more time to like stop, reevaluate, and listen, and stop and sorry, I had to shout not on that, but but
For me, the media thing is it's leisure,
Mhm.
and so that's I'm in like I like the way I absorb media and everything is probably that's different from how I would even prescribe other people absorb it. It's like obviously if you're just a casual viewer, it's like okay, just casually watch movies, then it's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Uh,
You're having to
but
actually pick it apart, and I'm saying, like, there are people who have reasons to listen to it, and then people who overindulge, and I found myself kind of overindulging, and when if I have a question that comes up about, I'm never one of those people who can say, chapter and verse, blah 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 blah. I've never been able to do that. Never been able to do that. But I should be able to make way more references, and not feel like, oh, am I misquoting here? Because it does get to the point where you're sinning and you're misquoting, and it's
or at the very least, you just like
you-
you're it's like you're not providing the necessary context.
Mhm.
But yeah, but and I'm the same way. It's like whenever I'm trying to cite a verse, I try to be as like I might even start typing from memory and then I stop myself and be like, hold up, I need to go to it. I need to make sure I get this right, and I need to make sure I'm reading around it to see
yes.
what's worth keeping. Well, like as far as like the point that's being made or the question that's being answered, it's like okay, let's make sure we have the proper context here. And I might even say, okay, but by the way, there's other stuff you probably should look at too if you're wanting, a
Yeah.
biblical answer because Bible, it's it's one of the biggest mistakes you can make reading it is not read it in context. That's how so many people get so many things wrong. It's like, oh, the Bible says don't judge. It's like that's part. It's like there's more context to it than that. It's not. That's not what that means.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean you're never allowed to judge. In fact, if you were to even think about that for about 30 seconds, you'd realize how silly that statement is.
It's a
Because
terrible
of course,
argument.
it's like the point is not to judge hypocritically, but there are passages throughout Scripture and in just basic reasoning and logic that, of course, you're supposed to make judgments. Of
Yeah.
course, you are. It's like that statement never judges one of the stupidest statements that's ever gets thrown at a Christian. It's second grade nonsense.
Yeah. It's like how you're supposed to
One of those
not
things that happens because people don't read the whole thing.
like, I know that man used to eat people, and he got put in jail, but he was a really good guy, and it's like, well, I can't judge.
I can't say I'm better than
I'm
that.
a
It's
Christian.
like,
I cannot
can't.
judge. Everybody get hungry. Everybody get hungry. That's
Yeah.
how you can end up getting stuff stuck in your toilet. But you cannot make that argument. It's so bad. It's so bad.
Yeah, it's
I
gosh, that gets it's especially bad when people you otherwise think are smart throw that at you, and I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm having to teach somebody how to color,
yeah.
and I'm like, that's what it feels like. I'm like, I really had hoped that I didn't even have to have this conversation with you because I thought you were smarter than this. Apparently not. So here
Hmm.
we go.
Well,
It's like that's
and
not what this means.
with people, I've had people that I respect who still don't understand it, because and they're coming from a good place, they're coming from or an ignorant place, but they're coming from a good place, in their heart, which can be very false. Uh they're coming from a good place by saying, like, I try not to judge these people, but like the moment that they leave church, they're over there, and they're doing something that's actually pretty bad, like, I'm like, no, that's actually who you should judge. Like, these are
Mhm.
supposed to be your brothers and sisters, and you're supposed to have judgment, based on what you've learned, to stay away from that, to not endorse it. And if they're your brothers, supposed to be your brothers and sisters, in Christ, you're supposed to actually, like, let them know, like, hey, you're supposed to reprimand them. You're supposed to let them know, and they're supposed to be representatives of the church too, and
I mean,
when they're
it's even
doing,
more based on that. It's such a like the idea of never judging is such a nonsensical concept because I'm just like, okay, let's go with a practical example. It's like, okay, if I'm deciding between eating a handful of Oreos and an apple and I'm trying to be healthy, how am I going to choose? Well, I'm going to make a judgment. And I'm
Mhm,
going to say, well, one of them's a healthy option, one of them's an unhealthy option. Let's choose the healthy option. So the same thing applies, say, when you're choosing a church to go to. It's like, okay, this church is kind of prosperity gospel nonsense.
mhm,
This church is much more, rooted in teaching scripture and tradition and stuff like that. I'm actually wanting, it's like, okay, if I'm wanting to go to something that is more rooted in biblical teaching, I'm going to make a judgment against the prosperity church.
mhm,
If I, and now you go to an individual level, if I'm, it's like, say, if you're trying to find, a mate on a dating app or something, and you're reading, say, you've got these two profiles you're reading, and one of them's a chick with like a septum piercing who's talking about living her best life and how she thinks the man should do this, and this, and
mhm,
it's all very self-centered and self-focused, and there's a bunch of like cursing and all this other stuff. And the other one is somebody who's like, this girl is like, I am chaste, I am a Christian, I'm, just all these wonderful qualities at all of the types that you're looking for. You're going to make a judgment against you're going to make a judgment for her and against the other person in your choice. It's like, obviously we make judgments all the time.
mhm.
That's just basic reasoning.
Yeah.
Do these people honestly think Christians are not supposed to do that? 'Cause that's insane. That would be an insane way to live one's life. And there is not one single instruction out there in the Bible telling Christians to live that way. It's if you look at the full context of what's being said, it's very simple. You don't judge a person. It's like you're not the final judge of a person. You can't damn a person, and you cannot judge them hypocritically.
Mhm.
It's very simple. It's like that's all that means. It's not telling you, oh, you're never supposed to judge. And I'm like, that is a really idiotic statement. And it's every bit as idiotic when they say they don't judge people. I'm like, you absolutely do. Every single person does. We
Yeah.
do it all the time. My gosh, we have a legal system based around judgment. Are you would you it's like, are we going around? I mean, granted, we actually do have people, it's like, oh, we shouldn't throw people in prison. It's like, does that come from the don't judge attitude? Is that why we have
Yeah.
this
We
problem?
cannot be judges of men. Thou shalt.
We
It
can't
is.
judge this poor fellow who, offed his parents. We don't know what his situation was like. It's like, well, we know how he did it, and we know it
We know
was
that he did do it.
it was murder, so we know that, yeah, we can make a judgment about that. You're not
Mhm.
supposed to do that.
If somebody's trying to take your kids out of your arms and they're just like, I'm going to take this, and you're like, no, you've made a judgment that, you don't want that person to take your kid. You don't know them. You don't want to know them. And even if you did slightly know them and they're, trying to do something that you don't like, that you feel is, obvious, like, did you judge that that person was going to hurt your child or just steal your child? You don't know, but you made a judgment, and that's good. That's, basic
That's
human
perfectly
function.
reasonable.
Yeah. And
Perfectly reasonable. It's
nothing
fine.
about the Bible told you at all. You know, that
Never allowed to judge. How dare you?
Yeah. And this goes back to Hebrew translation and many different meanings of certain words too, like people commonly say, thou shalt not kill, you know, um, and not understanding any difference in anything.
Yeah, they don't understand that there's actually a linguistic difference between kill and murder, and that if you were to translate that more literally, it's
Mhm.
thou shalt not murder.
Yeah.
Or obviously, there are times where killing is, could be considered justified, times of war,
Mhm.
times of justice, that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
because there was a lot of killing, in the Bible and all that, and
Ordained killing, yeah.
ordained killing, and a lot of things happened, and people who had murdered were at different times in the Bible, God was with them later, or they were
Yeah, we do
uh,
have examples of obviously like the negative side of it.
uh-huh,
Or I
but
mean, granted, like heck, David got one of his good friends killed because he wanted to sleep with his wife.
right.
But yeah,
I mean,
we obviously have examples of like
the plumber, did so many jobs charging people falsely, and just destroyed their bank accounts and all that. And then guess what? You know what? He came back to the good side, started giving discounts. But of course, Saul at one time was judging in the worst way possible, and he was. He was condemning people to death. I think, I don't know if he ever, committed any of the acts himself, but he might as well had, because he was, prosecuting Christians. He was hunting them down. He was one of the worst. He's just the worst. And somehow that became, and people would argue like, well, that's because God chose him. Yeah, he chose him as an apostle. He was going to make an example. It's like, no, yeah, I think you're just translating it wrong. I think you're just making like the biggest leap of, like obviously, I just don't. I wish that people would look a little bit farther. But people will quote that just like the thou shalt not judge and all that.
Well, it
Uh,
just kind of shows a bad faith approach to those kinds of
mhm,
discussions because I'm like, look, if you're, and that's why it's like a lot anymore. When I see that start to happening, I just like, okay, this is kind of the end of the conversation because you're not
mhm,
engaging in good faith. You're not actually trying to understand a position. You're just trying to quote something that you think is a gotcha. And even if I explain the context to you, you're not accepting it. You're not listening. I'm like, okay, this conversation has no point because you're not actually trying to gain some kind of understanding or perspective. You've heard this verse before, probably on Reddit somewhere, and you think that's the supreme gotcha. That's
mhm.
what that means. So, no refutation of that.
Well, an
It's like,
atheist will
well,
know the Bible pretty well, or they're able to quote it pretty well at times and all that. And but without actually really wanting to look into it, and it's just it's a constant thing that. And it's kind of like arguing with somebody on the opposite political side of the political aisle. Is that there are a lot of times when you should just stay away from the conversation because they're at a mental place where they're locked in, and if they are already believing what they're believing and it's absolutely nonsensical to you to that point, and good luck making a dent in that. So yeah, I respect you for just sticking out of that because there's at a certain point, all you can do is just point and laugh. It's because like, wow, you're stupid. It's
yeah,
like
I mean,
wow.
well, and it's or just I'm like, look, I really like having discussions with people who have different perspectives if it's
And are
in good
willing to
faith and if it's
learn.
yeah, it's like because to me it's like I mean, granted, I enjoy debate as well, where you're trying to prove your point
Uh
for a
huh.
larger audience too. That's also fine because it's like basically any circumstance where there's willing listeners, and that can happen at an individual level or can happen on a larger platform where it's not necessarily the person you're talking to, it's the people listening to you. Those are all fine, those are good, but if I'm engaged in an individual conversation with somebody who has no interest in actually listening to my perspective and is willing to admit they're wrong if I can show them they're wrong, then I'm like, yeah, there's really no point after that. It's like, okay, well, conversation's over at that point because there is no conversation. It's just Uh,
Yeah.
it's like if you have a being correct obsession, have at it. That's fine. You can think you're right.
Hmm.
There's no point in continuing the conversation because even if I show you're not, you're not going to accept that. So
Yeah,
who cares?
there's and yeah, it's a waste of time, waste of your effort,
Fruitless
and
conversation.
yeah. There's nothing to glean from it. Let's see. I'm learning. Kind of says I'm learning the ESV version of the Bible is probably the closest to the Hebrew Greek translations. ESV. What's that stand for?
English standard. I have an English standard. That's
Oh, English standard. Okay.
yeah.
There we go.
I
And
have that one. I mean, I have a few different translations. I know
mhm.
I have the New King James. I have I have ESV. I recently bought an Orthodox study Bible also. I have an apologetics Bible, which I think is NASB. I think I'd have to look at it to see exactly which one it is. I think that's a New American Standard. I have like 4 or 5 different
Yeah,
translations. I think.
I've
I don't think I
been
have. I definitely don't have 2 of the same.
been wanting to get a hold of the EVB. Yeah, I've been wanting to get a hold of that so bad. The
Which one?
Ebonics version of the Bible. I think that would be so fun to read. No, but let's see. But
I mean,
there,
I would be like, I would be curious about how I'd react to it. I'd be like, would this be fun or would I be like supremely disgusted? Uh, like the way how I read the Message Bible. I've seen, and I'm like, yeah, if I've seen the Message Bible and I come away from that feeling kind of disgusted by a really awful translation. I'm like, this is
there are some
no, never
bad.
read this.
Yeah, there are some pretty. Uh, yeah, the Niven NLT, yeah, NIV, yeah. I started out with the old King James, and I loved it, just
Mhm.
because I loved the language in it, and I think I loved it even more back then, because I was a kiddo, and I loved reading that and figuring out words and looking it up and stuff like that. I loved it more just for kind of deciphering it. It was a thing I did, and it stuck with me for a while. So when I just got to King James, then the standard and all that, it was a lot easier to understand and not get lost in the yays and yees and stuff like that. But because quoting it sometimes can be kind of weird, depending on which version you're
Well,
doing.
yeah,
But
because you're
then,
trying to, yeah, you're
yeah,
trying to, especially if you're trying to impart something upon another person, and they're like, I don't even know what you're saying.
yeah,
It's like I do love the language; it's beautiful language and everything, but yeah, it's good for like a personal experience. And granted, I do think there's some value in maybe like reading it in a sermon because I think that it's like if you're reading that you're actually trying to understand it, then it's got your attention. You could even argue it's more respectful
uh huh.
in a sense. Um,
But you
is it
don't
the
want to get
most
to that point
accurate
where you're
translation out?
losing. Yeah,
Right, exactly. And granted, is it the most accurate translation? No. Um, but yeah, it's like I won't deny there's a good amount of value. Granted, I think I mean, look, if you're one of the people who's a King James only person, that's certainly your prerogative. I think the position is very silly, though.
yeah,
I have encountered people. There's a lot of people who hold that position that the King James version is the only right version to read. And I'm like it's kind of like it's almost like a sub religion within. It's almost like a sub denomination within a denomination. I've always
mm-hmm.
found that a little strange, and I'm like, well, how would you? What if you had somebody from another country who has just learned English? How would you deal with them? It's like
Yeah.
what's even the equivalent in another country? You know, I always thought that was really. I've never heard a good justification for that. I've always found that very strange.
You
I'm
just
like,
replace
okay,
all the complicated words with the word
like
dang.
I don't have a problem if your church teaches from the King James version. I think that's fine. But there's a crowd of people that are like every other translation is heretical, and I'm like,
Hmm.
why? That doesn't make
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. I just think that there's ones that are newer now since the '90s that really oversimplify things and start to
Mhm.
miss the message and all that. Like basically at some point, when you're reading the Redneck Standard, Jesus said, y'all don't be doing that, you hear, you got to kind of back off and reevaluate what kind of book, which version. But with online sources nowadays, yeah, you can compare every type of Bible. There's websites for it. There are multiple websites for it where you can find verse and chapter, and you can find a different translation for it. And a lot of them will either agree, or some of them are pretty wild and different. But it is so great that we have those resources, and it's even better if you actually use them. Because I do enjoy my King James, but there are there's a reason why there's also been a lot of misunderstandings.
Is the Ebonics
And-
Bible called the King James?
King James. Yeah. It's like you ever at a church and all that, they ever ask you how many names are there, nicknames are there for Jesus, and or for God and all that. And at some point, some churches out there is going to seriously have the Kang.
King of Kangs.
Yeah. But
It's like, no, I don't think so. It's like, it's my church. Okay, like, all right. It's just
but
kinda like,
yeah,
sure.
those are some of the problems there, but and some of the bigger subjects, and but yeah, so kind of bring it back around here. I planned on today talking about a mixture of let's see.
I was gonna say, well, we plan on going a half hour. We only surpassed that 4 times over.
Yeah. I was like, food and
So
nutrition.
when you said a half hour and then you showed the topics, I was like, there is no way we're covering all those topics in 30 minutes.
Right.
Good luck even saying 30 on. It's like I was like the exercise one. I was like, maybe that one, but then the religion one was like, nah.
Nah. Yeah, it's too deep of a well, and I had in here. Let's see. Health goals. Regrets, and current how you're like living and diet and stuff like that. Muscle gain, muscle loss. Yeah, faith, and then let's see, ultra processed food versus diet. But
Muscle faith.
and then at some point, I guess I should have put plumber who testified. But that's kind of one of why I wanted to redo this channel, and because there are about 5 big topics that I love talking about with my friends, and this is a big major one of them. And I'm kind of setting up people for understanding that this is going to delve into sorry, but the channel is about me, and about these subjects and all that. So my life is big time controlled by, like any human, your health, your finances, and mine more so with faith and the religion that surrounds that at times and stuff like that. So it's going to be heard, and it's I think it's good to talk about, because candid conversations and being real people here. We're not getting any extra shill money from anything, obviously, and we're just, this is what we talk about every single day in real life. And how it relates to all the other subjects that we brought up. So that's basically what we're going to hear on the channel. At some point out of nowhere, we might be talking about have you been putting yourself on a regimen of push-ups and sit-ups? Have you been eating enough protein? Do you plumb your toilet and quote scripture? It's gonna happen.
Are you roto-rooted in your faith?
You gotta unclog that drain. It might be a big old greasy hairball with a little bit of eggshell that you accidentally got down in there.
Basically,
but
the whole channel is about cleansing. You got to cleanse your pipes. You got to cleanse your system of unhealthy stuff. You got to cleanse yourself of sin.
Shout.
And occasionally we'll talk about cleansing yourself from liberalism.
it's bound. It's
bound to come up, but
because unfortunately, like, but we have a varied group. I feel like we have enough differences between us to where it's not just an echo chamber. Although it is comforting at times when I can just say something, we can all just agree that something's stupid, but we all have nuance about us, and we all have. I sometimes go off on rants, and I know like just like online, like if you put like a rant online, you're gonna lose some people. Some people are like, I'm not reading all that, and or basically, yeah, I get the idea, dude. There's a lot of those times because like when I get in the zone, I'm like, oh well, I gotta pound the subject because I try to explain things thoroughly, and then I end up doing it too much. I'm like, I need to put that on freaking YouTube then. Stop trying to. If somebody doesn't care, they don't care. If it's just they already know, they know, and give them the choice to do it. But some of these rants and things that we all talk about, they can't be going to waste. We can't just throw them to the wind on a chat. We got to put them online. So yeah, that's some of the subjects that we'll bring up here. And food, because the whole big thing I was going to be asking you about was cooking today, and food, and but that can come at another time. But anyways, it was super duper fun.
Is this the Crown and Bear? Is that what this is?
This is basically, I guess so, dude. Because like we had a plan on doing that, and I'd be
and then my channel all of a sudden started to pick up some steam, and I'm like, crap, I need to focus on that real quick.
Yeah.
If
that's why
if you want to run it on your end, I am totally down. So.
Okay, well, I'd be fine with that, especially once I, switch over to StreamYard or something else other than this. This was kind of, dude, I spent some time last night making this, but it was a little bit wonky, yeah. But oof. But yeah, and I there is also limited time in everybody's day. And I've been here lately like streaming, and I'm like, it's fun. I love my game streams and stuff like that, but I'd like to do something a little bit more human at times, and talk and talk out subjects.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because like gaming streams are fun, but you're just like, that's your interaction. I mean, you kind of have to stop interacting with one to interact with the chat, or vice versa. And I love the more conversational side of
because like you are like you said, your channel is actually taking off, and it's good, thank goodness. It got out of the hole.
I should be releasing another video on that this week too.
Yeah,
it's fun. That'll be fun.
Wait, actually, which video are we doing now?
I've been working on my video for Primal. Episodes 1 through 5.
Okay.
The first season, and that's about. I'll actually have the primary. So I've kind of approached doing this one a little bit differently. I've mostly just been kind of adding the footage to the voiceover portion, and I think I'll have that wrapped up today. I've only got about 4 minutes worth of video left to do that for, and then I'll spend the rest of the time adding the music where I need to add it. Adding like little like meme stuff that I haven't already put in. I mean, so there are times where I have meme ideas and I immediately know it's like, okay, I need to add this right now because I know exactly what I want to do here, and then I'll go ahead and put that in. But I'll be going back over the video for after today also to make sure I got everything right. But probably Wednesday, Thursday, it should be ready.
And the voiceover.
Yeah, thankfully all that got. that was really, really frustrating.
That's a debacle there. That was.
I mean, thankfully, recording with Audacity proved that.
Okay. Okay. I didn't know if you ever actually got
to
end up using it.
Did. Yeah, that is what I ultimately did. It's I don't even know if I'm going to do. It's like, okay, so with DaVinci, one thing you do is you can. Once you've recorded the audio, you can change the settings to certain defaults. And I've generally used the YouTube default. And I'm going to try it to see how it sounds with that. But I'm not even sure if I'm going to need it because it actually sounds pretty clean. But we'll see which sounds better over the music and everything. But it's it's a different kind of video because obviously I'm talking about something positive. So it's been kind of difficult to find the right tone for it. And tone and cadence and everything is something I'm constantly trying to work on to get something.
It's a hard balance because Well, what I'm wondering with this one is now you're talking about season 1.
Mhm.
Okay, so what's the current
This is
season of?
it's a very yeah. We're currently on Nick's channel. We've been talking season 3,
Mhm.
which quality wise is very different. I was talking about this last week on there. I was like, okay, so I'm covering 5 episodes in this current video I'm working on, and it flows very smooth. It's very fast. The video is currently at about 38 minutes. It might go a little bit more than that once I add stuff to it.
Yeah.
But it's currently only at like 38 minutes. I'm like, wow, 38 minutes to talk 5 episodes. It's great. That's efficient. When we get to this 3rd season, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it so quickly because there's a lot of stuff to break down that's not working in that, and I tend
Yeah.
to be a little bit more long-winded while I'm talking about something that doesn't work. Uh,
The
but
rug
yeah,
pull.
it's been
That's
uh,
going to the rug pull that's going to happen on some subscribers. It's gonna be hilarious because it's
you're
like
like, oh, I thought you were one of the good. It's like, guys, look,
I
I'm
thought you were a
sorry,
simp. I
but
thought you could simp with me, but you can't simp, so I was wondering how the tone of this video was going to go. Like, is this going to be kind of a little bit of a roller coaster, or is it going to be,
I mean, it's largely positive.
okay,
I mean, I am very
you
much
are
going
focused
over
on 1 through 5.
episodes 1 through 5. It is, it's structure similar as far as like going over what's happening in the plot.
Hmm.
Complimenting what's good. There are a few negatives that I point out here and there. There's not a lot, which that's not a bad thing. That's quite
Yeah,
good.
that's rare.
The harder part has actually been to try to find a comedic balance and everything, because it's a little harder to joke about something when it's not. Because comedy kind of at its essence is about commenting on things that are ridiculous and bad,
Yeah.
or not bad, but just silly and strange, and those tend to be bad things.
Right.
I'm like, kind of hard to tell jokes about really good things. So
Yeah, it's hard
that's been a bit of a challenge, but I've found some places to add it in. Usually it's more of a comment on the story and like, kind of mixing it up a little bit, but uh it'll be fun to part of the reason I chose this is because I'm like, okay, if I'm going to talk about bad stuff, I don't want to do it exclusively, and I want to make sure I can produce quality content for positive stuff and negative stuff, but I'm more seasoned in talking about negative stuff that way. So
life has trained you in this,
yes,
unfortunately.
exactly. Life has recently trained me a lot in the negative stuff, so talking about something positive, it's like, okay, hopefully after doing a few videos about it's like the first 4 videos about Primal will all be positive. So I'm like, okay, I want to get good at talking about things in a good way. So I'm guessing like whenever I get to like the second half of like season 2, that video will be considerably better than this one. But
Well, you'll be able to point
as
out
far
that
as, like,
this was
yeah,
entirely in good faith, and you're also not a creator who is just like, I only focus on slop because it's easy to make fun of slop. It's good to have a point to point, to aim at, and show people like, reference to that. Hey, I'm not, I'm not just a negative Nancy for the clicks and views.
yeah. I mean, granted, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with talking about just bad stuff necessarily. It's just there's the temptation that comes with just talking negatively for the sake of it also. If you're genuinely you have a channel where you're talking about bad stuff and you are only picking stuff you feel are genuinely bad, I think that's perfectly fine. That's honest. There's nothing wrong with that. But there are people obviously out there who they'll start talking about things that way, but then they'll just start talking about everything that way, and you're like,
Right.
okay, this is dishonest. You're not
Yeah.
being real. So
And there are people
and here's
who
the thing,
do
I
nothing
actually do like talking about good stuff also. I do.
yeah.
So,
There are people who definitely soften the blow to a lot of movies and shows just for the views also, and they're usually, we call them shills, and we call them this and that, and because we know that they are just they're the people who want to be invited to everything kind of deal, and a lot there are reviewers out there who are successful, but it is hard to transition going from being the guy who has witty jokes about X, Y, and Z show or movie to giving something praise. That's why I enjoyed some of your earlier videos when you were talking about Terminator and such, and Aladdin, and
Mhm.
you had good, you had positives and negatives about a bunch of things, and if people are going to call you just a negative, whatever, just for that, it means that they didn't look at the rest of your library of movies that you have on here. Because unfortunately, you're one person, you have a real life and a real job, and you can't be producing this stuff all the time. But I remember I got to like 8 videos of yours, and I cycled through them finally about the third time, at work, and or working out at home, and working the yard and stuff like that, and taking care of the chickens. I'm like, dang it, Gord, get off your ass.
Like, I need more.
Yeah. I'm like, golly, just.
One thing I am also working on is I've been developing an idea to bring a certain kind of meme video back.
Mhm.
So that might be the very next thing I do, where because I really enjoyed like kind of the Biden meme stuff. That was fun and everything, but I was like, it felt stale after a while, and obviously politics is not a subject I especially like memeing on all the time. I don't like hunting all that stuff down because I'm like, it does get kind of tiresome.
And YouTube don't like it.
Oh yeah, and then there's that too.
Yeah,
but because I do like talking the movie stuff more. If I'm gonna, from a YouTube perspective, I like that stuff considerably more. And it hit me. I was like, well, celebrities say a lot of dumb stuff too. So every once in a while, it might, behoove one to pull, to find some goofy celebrity quotes and, do something similar. I might have more like audio response, like that I record to some of the things they say, or a little bit of commentary. But I've been bookmarking a lot of dumb celebrity quotes because there've been a lot lately.
Yeah.
I've been bookmarking those like crazy here lately, so that's been fun.
Yeah. Thanks, Ben Stiller. There's, I definitely want those back, and hopefully that's something that the channel can get. I hate to say it, but get away with without. I just would hate to see another one of your channels get bottlenecked down because of weird policy. I don't know. We've talked about this, plenty of times in depth and all that, but seems when certain subjects get brought up or anything like that, the video just gets quote unquote shadow banned and stuff like that. So hopefully this is one of those that doesn't drive you into that, or
I will say this. I don't know if you've seen it, but like I'll send it to you later. The video that inspired me in this way. It's the best response video I've ever seen. It's freaking amazing. And I bring him up often. So ER did this video.
Yeah.
He had done a longer video, and this is one of his videos that got taken down. He had done like a 35-40 minute video about like Steven Universe and how crap it is, and it's a fantastic vid, and he got a lot of crap for it, even outside of the fact that YouTube took it down. So he like found a bunch of comments. I don't know, it probably wasn't even hard to find. He just took a lot of comments that he got that were really insane. He made like this 12-minute response video to it, and I swear it is freaking hilarious.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind linking me to that.
Funny. Yeah, I'll definitely send it to you. I've probably watched that video like 10 times. It's so funny.
Well, I was wondering why I kept on seeing Steven Universe get brought up in chat and also on Twitter and stuff like that, and I have no idea.
Well, I mean,
what it is.
Well, and granted, that came from the fact that granted, I made the connection because I've seen his video, and I've never watched Steven Universe, but I've watched like all of ER's videos, and
enough for you to know.
yeah. So it's like my framing I have for Steven. Now, granted, I've known about Steven Universe. I know the content that's in it. That's why I haven't watched it, because I'm like, yeah, it seems like it's just
not really your thing.
Propaganda for kids.
Gotcha.
It's
one of those.
And but his video is fantastic for it. But then I saw his response video, and I was like, that's hilarious. And then we started watching season 3 of Primal, and there just happens to be this kid in it that looks like a version of Steven Universe, and I'm like, what the heck? So that making that mental connection was just, it was easy. And funny is I'm not the only person who's made it. It's this person came into the chat last week who had not heard our other streams and brought it up, and I was like, huh, you're not the only one who thinks he looks like a Steven Universe character. It's like, I've been saying that since episode 1. I was like, who's this little Steven Universe looking mofo
I know.
in this show? That's insane.
I think Cannoli was trying to call me that earlier. There's a creator, and I'm blanking on his name right now, but something before you sleep, or awake before you sleep, or something like that. Before you sleep. Yeah, sorry, I gotta find this right now because this dude is very, very base and all that. And okay, I see your link right there.
Yeah.
Well, now I feel like a big old turd bucket because definitely can't think of the dude's name. Constantly see him on X nowadays just because the content that a lot of people react to and stuff like that. We're kind of in the same feed there, and I was like, I'm gonna follow that dude, and because I started hearing his videos on on YouTube. And kind of like Rags. He's a lot like Rags in a way, but way less comedic, I guess. But anyway, I'll find out, send you the account. But lastly, I'll ask you, what are some YouTube accounts that you recommend people to follow, as far as like that just that still amazes you to this day, at least? Yeah.
Let's see. The one,
other,
granted,
of course, ER, which you can.
ER is obviously a fantastic one
Mhm.
because his videos are just drop dead hilarious. He's probably, as far as like my own content goes, he's probably like my biggest influence. That's part of the reason I probably gravitated towards him so much, is like when I found, because I didn't start watching his stuff till about a year ago, and I was like, oh my gosh, this guy makes like kind of the peak version of the kind of stuff I want to make. Like I'm nowhere near, like I actually had somebody in my comments call me like kind of like ER, and I was like, okay, internally I'm like, okay, I am nowhere near as good as he is, but having that said about me is like the biggest like YouTube compliment I've probably ever been given, as far as I'm concerned. I was like, okay, that's very nice of you. So yeah, when I found his stuff, I was like, okay, this channel is amazing. And like I said, his videos are like infinitely rewatchable. I don't think he has a video that I haven't watched multiple times. So he's obviously one. And granted, this channel's a huge one, and everyone's freaking seen it before. But Wendigoon's stuff is really freaking good, and he's putting stuff out, I think, more frequently now. He just did like a 3+ hour video about The Road. It might be the best video he's done, which is saying a lot because he is some truly excellent stuff. But The Road is like his favorite book, and it shows in that video. I'm a huge fan of the book The Road. I do recommend reading The Road before you watch the video, because it's not a book that you want spoiled for you. But he puts out great stuff all the time, and granted, he has like 5 million subscribers, so most people know that already. But
yeah,
if you don't watch his stuff, you should be. His stuff is really, really good.
I actually didn't find him until I was watching a Turkey Tom video, which I started getting into like those for a little while, and he had basically in defense of Wendigoon video. And I saw him for a second, and he was talking about this one very liberal horror YouTuber who felt like if you're anywhere right leaning, that you shouldn't be allowed to talk about horror. Yeah. And
I know this video you're talking about.
You know the video because he goes
because I've seen videos about that video. Like I first heard of that, and this is kind of how I found Wendigoon. Is Shoe on Head did a video about that. And she like her video on it's really funny. It's basically like it's I think it's called like the worst hit piece on YouTube.
Yeah, it was
And
bad. It was so bad, dude.
yeah, it's really bad, and her breakdown's hilarious. And I was like, I don't know who Wendigoon is. And now the funny thing is, I had seen one of his videos before. I just didn't know who he was. I
Yeah.
watched he did a video where he did this like he did an iceberg video on like these really disturbing movies, and you know that was part. I was like, okay, I'll listen to that. And I had seen some of like the high level ones that are not particularly bad. I was like, okay, I've seen actually a few of these, but then you get to the lower ones and I'm like, this sounds awful. But and it's really funny coming from him because he's like, you know, he's this nice Christian guy. He's like a Sunday school teacher.
Yeah.
And I remembered watching that video when I saw Shoe on Heads. I was like, oh yeah, I've seen him. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know he was a Christian. I didn't know he was conservative. And I started watching his stuff and I'm like, holy crap, this guy's channel's phenomenal. Like it's really phenomenal. But I love his videos on like he does a lot of cool conspiracy theory stuff, but he did like Ruby Ridge, he did Waco. Those are excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but like I love some of his like kind of media breakdowns. He has a solid one about No Country for Old Men that I think is really good. I don't know if I agree with all of his conclusions, but I think it's a really good video. The one he did for The Road is outstanding. The one he did for Blood Meridian, outstanding. So yeah, his stuff is excellent. Plus, if you're like me and you have a 12-hour job where you can just listen to podcasts and long-form content,
you need it in
great
your
for
life.
that.
I
Yeah.
heard him quoting that guy, and he was like, you know, the ground hurts my feet and the wind hurts my face. And I was like, this dude is my kind of guy instantly.
Yes.
Because of I mean, every bit of that. I actually went back just to listen to like the compilation that Turkey Tom had put out about the videos, and I was just like, my word. So the person who was trying to take him down ended up inevitably, I guess, getting to you and me nearing the same time when all this drama was going on, because you know Shu and you know Tom, you know, were both bringing up, you know, this terrible take that the man had. Oh my goodness, it was so bad. It was so bad that he ended up making Wendigoon probably gain 100,000 subs from trying to take him down. And
It's granted for Wendigoon, that's not that many, but I mean, I'm sure he's not mad about it.
Yeah, it does not hurt. It doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt.
It
doesn't hurt. It's just he happens to have about 4.9 million other ones.
So, but ever since that day, dude, anytime I hear somebody just, you know, giving a little, just, you know, sound like a big baby bitch at work and all that, it's like, the floor hurts my feet and I don't like the dishes. It's gonna stick with me forever because of how that.
Yeah,
dude,
that's. If people out there, if you all have not heard that guy's video, I do encourage watching Shu's breakdown of it.
Yes.
But Whitey has the impression of him down pretty. The cadence is spot on, which is kind of alarming. But like, okay, so other ones, as far as like another movie reviewer, I recommend, and I've streamed with him once before, and he's a pretty cool guy. And we both are big fans of Amadeus, so that's why that's what actually was like. I had heard of him before because I'd seen him on like Open Bar a couple of times, and then I got to stream with him once, and then I found out that, well, after we streamed together, I watched one of his videos and he brought up Amadeus and how great it is, and I was like, oh, okay, that's really really Someone else who appreciates
That's why we get
Amadeus,
along.
but Despot of Antrim.
Yeah,
his videos are great. I love his stuff.
Yeah,
I really love his stuff.
You can do like 4 hours of his stuff so easily, and his Wokey awards.
Like one thing I love about like him and Jay Longbone, they both talk about like bad media a lot, like and not just like bad media, but like super cringe media. But they make great content off of it. Despot's excellent at it.
Yes.
Like, and the thing is, they're very different in their approach. So they have their own like different styles that, you know, add some variety to it. But yeah, Despot's videos I find highly rewatchable. His videos on like She Said and women talking absolutely crack me up. He did a recent one on Hidden Figures, which I've already watched that one twice. That video's fantastic. So he's definitely one that I recommend people watching.
Only time he's got on my nerves was I was trying to listen to, I guess I was actually like half asleep and all that, and then, you know, in the middle of his video at time, and sometimes he'll have it multiple times, and, you know, he has a phrase, where he starts laughing, basically saying, "You know what I'm talking about, boys," and all that. And
Oh yeah, that.
he'll say
Okay.
that, and he gets like his audio just goes so freaking loud. I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, I was like, because I was half asleep, and suddenly, I had that thing turned down to where I was like, oh, I could pass out to this, and so they, what I'm talking about, boys, and you're like, oh, dude, oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. And my wife was like, what was that?
I think he's fixed. Like I think he's, like, or at least I think YouTube's. This is one way in which I think YouTube's audio balancing has helped, because I know exactly what you're referencing, and I think early on had a similar experience with that, but I've come across that joke again, and it's not nearly as bad.
Yeah.
So it's more like you're able to laugh with it than be like, oh gosh, my headphones. But
Yeah, normalized audio is a big helper on editing and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
but yeah, I was going through all of his Star Wars stuff back in December, and that like kept me sane for a bit, because I was like, oh, that's hilarious. Oh, that's hilarious. And because he was going through it, after the fact, and but that was my introduction to him, because I was like, at this point, I really don't want to even hear about Star Wars, but his take on it and his comedy of it was so good that I was willing to listen to every bit of it like 3 times. It was well done. But yeah, I definitely hear you on
And if you can add
Despot.
something unique like him, or like, because there's obviously
Yeah.
like Mahler has like probably the best like overall breakdown of like the Star Wars movies, but you go to people like Despot or like Vox's Productions, or ER has a couple of Star Wars videos that are excellent. But yeah, it's like if you can add new flavor to it, that's the entertaining thing. Because to me, that's the mark of a good review, is rewatchability. Because it's like, look, I have nothing against like the people out there like the Jeremy Johnsons out there who do like very short form movie content that are informative. That's great for kind of if you trust him as a critic. I've got no issue with that. I think he says substantive things, but I think even he would admit his videos aren't like necessarily rewatchable. That's why he's got like a ton of them. He's got like hundreds of them. They're not exactly rewatchable vids. Whereas videos like ERs or Despots or Voxus or Mahler or everything, it's like they're making content that's very rewatchable. So because it's a form of entertainment on top of being informative. So that's movie wise, that's what I gravitate to. And obviously there's like cooking channels and stuff that I like watching. Steel Pan Guy is a guy I've been watching recently, because I've started cooking with a steel pan, and I'm like, wow, this is actually really, if you know what you're doing with them, they're really great. I used to not have a freaking clue how to use a steel pan, and I'm like, holy crap, these actually are really worthwhile. And
is it just use more oil?
Well, okay, so the trick to using a steel pan is to make sure it gets properly heated.
Okay.
And not even just the pan itself, but the biggest problem that people tend to have with a steel pan is that their food sticks, even after using oil. It's like, okay, if like you're cooking a steak on a steel pan, what you're waiting for is a certain natural effect to occur. So you let the pan heat. You want to make sure that the way it's heated properly is you throw some water in it. It kind of dances around the pan. It doesn't just burn up.
Right.
So once it gets to that point, you add your oil, then you let that heat maybe a little bit, like 15, 20 seconds or whatever. But then when you lay your steak down, your steak will stick to the pan at first. But once it gets the proper crust and and that's actually done, it will unstick itself naturally. And that's when it's like, okay, I can flip this now because it's unstuck itself. And that's what a lot of people miss, is they think, oh, it's just stuck and I need to fix this. And it's like, no, there's nothing wrong. You just have to wait for it to do the work. And I highly recommend his channel if you're wanting to learn to cook with steel pans, because I'll say this, as somebody who does like cook steak fairly often and everything, steel pans are highly versatile. And if you want a good crust on a steak, which is kind of paramount, steel's kind of the king. Once you learn how to use it, it's kind of king. It's pretty freaking great.
So that was my problem, that was my thing about like cast iron, and then I started getting into cast iron and learning how to properly use it, and it's about the same, but I did not know that applied to steel, because like I was over here like like literally Saturday night, my brother was talking about steel pans, and I was like I was like, yeah, well, yeah, I'm gonna trust cast iron. I'm not over here being like, you're gay if you don't use the right kind of pan. But I am definitely one of those people who are like, once I found out how to use it, like, wow, I was, I became big into it. I definitely, agree about it. But when you first get it, you're probably gonna misuse it, and that's exactly like I was just complaining like man, I hate cleaning up after somebody who's used a steel pan because it's always everything sticks, everything becomes a big weird crusty crust on there. And I guess they're not using enough lubricant while they're cooking, they're not using enough fats and oils and all that. Like they're doing something wrong here, and apparently they are doing something wrong here. So that
I do
explains
at
so
least hope
much.
to one day have, because he used, because granted the other thing is you want to make sure you use like a high smoke point oil, that way your home isn't just covered in smoke.
Yeah, I've been using the
Uh,
avocado oil.
Avocado oil is really good. Like I'm trying to remember what he uses. He uses like algae cooking oil, which is like the highest smoke point.
What?
Which granted, yeah, algae cooking oil is the highest smoke point.
You can milk algae and get.
Apparently, yeah, it's algae cooking oil. It's
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
apparently it's the highest smoke point. I have not gained any. I don't have access to that at the moment.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't have access. I just haven't bought it. It's not hard to find, really. You can order it and you can
Yeah,
probably get
but
it off of
shit,
Amazon.
that's a lot there. Yeah.
It's a little pricey, yeah. It's a little
I've
pricey.
been wanting to
but
cook more with tallow, but unfortunately, I don't have mass tallow dealers here. It's like you can buy a jar at the store and all that of tallow, but and then the one time I ordered,
Did
I
you
think I
say
sent
masked towel? What?
let's see, a tallow,
Or mass tallow?
yeah, yeah,
Oh, masked towel. Okay.
yeah.
I thought you said I don't have masked towel. I was like, why do they need to be masked? Masked,
You don't look
masked
at
tallow
don't
distributor.
if you see the tallow's face, you're dead, but no, and then I told you guys like the one time I had a delivery to my house, like it was like 3 gallons of tallow, and seriously, I don't know what happened, but we got the package delivered. It was like cracked open. There was tallow all over inside the box from the bucket, and it was the one time that we had a FedEx guy give us a thumbs up to our camera, and I think, did you give me a thumbs up because you did that, or were you just like what was that? You don't even know what to say about it. And we obviously got a refund and all that, and I was like, I'm not using this. I don't know what happened here. But so it's hard to get a hold of a lot of tallow, beef tallow for me, and trustworthy. So I'll have to find another source to get my tallow delivered to me. But I would really like to, do more of that. Until then, I've been using, the avocado oil at high smoke point, and
That's a really good one to use.
there is a little bit of a taste of, I feel like that I'm not the biggest fan of, but also I can throw a little touch of that mixed with some butter into my skillet to get that thing of course red hot after a while, and then add in my stuff.
Grapeseed. Use grapeseed
And
if you want. If you don't want the taste, use grapeseed.
okay,
I think they have the exact same smoke point.
well,
Yeah, I use grapeseed oil and
and
high smoke point, and it does not leave any taste.
but man, yeah, so for the longest time I hated steel pans just because they left everybody that used them, like my in-laws would use them. I'd be like, if you're gonna use this, I'm not gonna be your little helper and help you clean it. The good thing about them is that you can throw them in the dishwasher.
Well, honestly, and the thing with steel pan and everything is once you learn how to cook with them properly, cleaning's easy.
Yeah.
Actually, really, I mean, you have to kind of make sure you do it immediately.
Mhm.
So like, especially if like you're cooking steak, it's like, okay, I'm gonna let my steak rest, and in the meantime, I'm gonna clean this up. But once you do that, it's like, yeah, it's pretty fantastic, and it's very versatile. You can cook like steak, eggs, vegetables, everything. Yeah, steel pan guy, watch his stuff. He goes through the methods. He actually reinforces the method on almost every video, like in some simple way.
Mhm.
But he has videos about how to clean it right and everything, and he does a lot of these in just shorts. So it's very efficient teaching tool for that.
Well, he can wear pants too if he wants to, but I guess uh, uh, I guess one
I
last.
prefer all my dealers to have no pants.
Yeah. The better we. But I guess last thing I got to bring up about cooking is I just can't believe how many years I used the non-stick, the Teflon stuff, and then how many years I looked at it and be like, oh, this one's going bad, there's stuff out of it missing. I'm like, and then you don't really think about it for the longest time. You're like, I've been eating that. So, there's my future cancer. But when you when
I have non-stick cancer. Somehow it's sticking to me.
yeah, it's those forever chemicals, or whatever. But yeah, we've been eating that this whole time
That would
because
be a good joke to make about it if you actually did. If someone got cancer that way, they'd be like, "I knew I could get cancer from Teflon. I just didn't think it would stick."
ha ha.
Ha!
Yeah. You get it, boys. Yeah. Sorry. Let's see, baby. Well, okay. Any other YouTubers that come to mind?
Hang on. Let's see. I'll pull a little subscriber list here.
I'll bring it up.
I want to save some of these if we ever talk about this again. But
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. My brother introduced me to one very recently, so I've just started to get through his stuff. Now, I'm not as big a fan of him so far as my brother is, but maybe it's because I feel like I kind of feel like his style can feel a little redundant at times, but he has undeniably good stuff. It's called like Space Ice or Space Ice. He does kind of these movie reviews that are very much like parody, where like the thumbnail is kind of the honest part, whereas the video substance is more just a joke. Like he's doing it very much in like comedic movie trailer voice. It's really fun. But yeah, it's like they're not always great, but the videos of his that hit are really good. Like he has one where he compares like Van Damme to Seagal, and he has like a Van Damme versus Seagal thing, and it's pretty freaking funny because he's siding with Van Damme on every single thing, pretty much. That one's really good. He's videoed like on Chuck Norris. He'll he's one where he does like settles like the Street Fighter versus Mortal Kombat movie debate. He did a video recently on like the Zack Snyder Dawn of the Dead remake, which was freaking hilarious. But yeah, he's got some vids that aren't great, but he has ones that hit really, really well. And I'm like, yeah, I like the channel. It was definitely good enough to subscribe to. Space Ice is pretty funny. It is pretty funny. Like even his banner, it's like Space Ice, Van Damme, Stallone, Nicolas Cage, Arnold. It's like that's not the only thing you talk about. It's like doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
And that's kind of how he talks like this. It's like
having a good movie trailer voice is freaking that'd be freaking awesome. I gotta work on my by the way, I gotta work on my banner for this new version of the channel. So right now I just got some food and some chickens up on there. It's like I came here for the food and chickens. Y'all talk about the Jesus. I need something that but it's hard to represent that in a banner like food, animals, Jesus. Stallone. Saul the plumber. Yeah, he could be the mascot.
You want to start this with a homily about the plumber?
Trying to imagine the intro for the channel, that'd be even greater. Anime character with plumbing tools and a wrap around his eyes. Okay. All right. Well, I have stolen you long enough here, but I just wanted to get an introduction going here. And any day that you have to talk about any of these subjects, just hit me up. Where my streaming schedule is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, sometimes on Sundays if I'm feeling spicy and snack religious. Yeah, those are the usual times. I'll do mornings, evenings, nights, but if I have to and stuff like that. So if we find this on the replays, anybody finds this on the replay or shorts that I'll make out of it if I can, then kind of look forward to that time. Gord is a very good channel for you to follow, not just because he's a friend, but he's a member too. Not because like I mentioned earlier, I watched every one of his videos, and this is like somebody that I know, and it's rare when you actually have a friend and you're like, you see videos from friends, and we all have it where it's like, oh, cool video, nice, it smells weird, okay, and it is what it is. But when you actually have somebody's videos that you watch and you listen to, and you're like, didn't know that you could pull that out of your arse, that's really good. And so that's one of those accounts that you should follow. Pop Up Pumpkin. And are there any channels still left? I forget if is your game streams going to be also on Pop Up Pumpkin? Am I remembering that correctly? Okay.
Yeah.
So unlike me, he's going to actually use one channel because I have spread apart too much here. But anyways, yeah. So catch us later, and anytime that y'all need to find out about any of these subjects, just kind of come listen to these videos. And if you have anything to talk about, leave it in the comments, because I'll reply to you in maybe like a day, but I might reply to you. So bless your hearts. And anyway, thank you, Gore King, for joining me, and I'll holler at you here in a little bit. Everybody else, you have a freaking awesome day. Waka waka and drop